G'day there guys, the voice that lulls you to sleep here. It's your main man Markee and welcome back to another episode of r/Am I the A-hole? Now if you love today's bloody good stories, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbie, and get ready for some bloody good content. Thank you. Posted by user Legitimate River 4033. Titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my future sister-in-law that I won't be attending her child-free wedding, causing a lot of my other family members to drop out as well? So my future sister-in-law is marrying my brother next summer, and they're planning to have a child-free wedding. I have about 3 other sisters, and we all have kids, as do most of my cousins at this point. Our family is kinda spread out over the country, and my brother/sister-in-law's wedding is out of state for most of us. Once I found out they wanted to make it child-free, I began to lose interest in going to the wedding. I don't want to be away from my kids for a couple of days, and it's just a hassle to find them living arrangements for when my husband and I are gone, especially since most of our adult family members will be at the wedding. We'd have to leave the kids with some friends. However, I get that it is her wedding and her decision, so I just declined to go, stating that I don't want to leave my kids alone without any family to watch them. After I dropped out, my other sisters got the courage to drop out as well, as they also have toddlers they didn't want to leave behind for a couple of days. Then, my cousins began declining to come as well. Now it has become a huge deal in the family and caused a lot of drama. My brother has called me and yelled at me, saying that I was the one who caused all the problems. I was firm when I told him I wasn't going to his wedding unless I could bring my kids, and that all our sisters and cousins pretty much felt the same way. My parents, who are paying for half of their wedding, are also pissed that so many family members on our side aren't coming. They were already somewhat against the idea of a child-free wedding in the first place, and have now started pressuring sister-in-law to not make it child-free. My sister-in-law refuses to meet in the middle and says the wedding will remain child-free, but she's also mad at all of us for not coming. She also still expects my parents to help pay for it, which I doubt they'll do at this point, lol. I'm fine with her having a child-free wedding. I just don't want to be a part of it if it means being away from my kids for days. Am I the a-hole? And edit, people keep asking why I'm mostly talking about my sister-in-law and not my brother in the post. I know for a fact my brother was okay with having kids at the wedding. It's the norm in our family, and he loves his nieces and nephews. It's my sister-in-law who wants this to be a child-free thing against the wishes of like 95% of our family, and still have my parents foot the bill. My brother is just supporting her to make her happy. And edit, she has an entire 4-day itinerary planned, with like 6 events that she expects to all be child-free. Are all of us with toddlers and kids supposed to swing back and forth from hiding in our hotels with random sitters to all the wedding activities just to keep my psycho sister-in-law happy? And then pay for it because she sure as hell won't, since our kids are problems, as she stated to my face. Look, to be honest, I really didn't know where to go to for this one, so I did go and look at the comments and what they had to say first before forming my own opinion. It seems OP has really left out a lot of information in this post, and she's kind of molded the story to fit her own version of reality. I'm of the mind that these other family members didn't make the decision not to come themselves. I'm of the mind that this was orchestrated by OP, and she pressured them not to come, and she made an entire kerfuffle about it. OP has also pulled the wool over our eyes in the sense that it's hard to believe the family couldn't come together and put those kids together with a group babysitting session or somewhere that will look after them. And you're not exactly forced to go to all of those events that OP is talking about. You can just go to the wedding and then pull out if you have enough on your plate with your kids. I get where the OP is coming from, but I really feel like she's pulling at straws for this one. I'm gonna go with OP is the a-hole. So yeah, you're the a-hole. Username 52 says, "You're the a-hole because you don't seem to know what meet in the middle means. She wants her wedding to be child-free, you want her wedding to not be child-free. You think she won't meet in the middle because she's not changing to what you want. It's super common to have group babysitting at the hotel. All your siblings and cousins can pool resources and get a few people to stay a few hours at the hotel and watch the kids. Maybe even have your parents pay for it as part of the wedding fees. If you don't want to go, don't go. But it doesn't seem like you're trying to actually work something out. Yeah, I don't get how child-free wedding translates into, I'd have to leave the kids at home. And if OP is going to complain about spending money to bring the kids to the location, they'd have to spend that money if the kids were invited. There's really barely any difference. Everyone brings their kids. A couple of cousins or family members take turns with childcare while the rest go to the wedding. Trust me, as a kid I hated having to go to weddings. Hanging out at a hotel pool would be so much more appealing to me. Northern Lit Up said, "Not the a-hole. People are entitled to a child-free wedding, but they also have to understand that it's not going to be realistic for most people to leave their kids for days, especially young ones. This should have been an anticipated consequence of a child-free wedding. Your sister-in-law shouldn't have to change her child-free wedding, but she also doesn't get to be mad at out-of-state parents for not coming." You're the a-hole for saying, "She also still expects my parents to pay for it, which I doubt they'll do at this point, lol." Lol? If someone was offered financial help for a wedding and then has it yanked from under them and you, lol, obviously you feel morally superior. Don't go to the wedding. That doesn't make you the a-hole, but hopefully you can have a little more compassion for the situation as a future sister-in-law. And Paleo Terrific says, OP deleted a comment where she called sister-in-law a gold-digging hoe, and said she's taking advantage of their parents' money. If this was purely a "am I the a-hole for not wanting to attend a multi-day, out-of-state, child-free wedding," the answer would be no. However, it's clear that OP has personal issues with sister-in-law and is hiding behind her children as an excuse. OP finds it funny that so many people are dropping out of attending the wedding and literally calls sister-in-law a psycho in the edits. OP, you're the a-hole so hard. Also, to everyone in the comments saying they're so shocked at all the "you're the a-hole" votes, and it's just because this sub skews child-free, reread those comments. No one is voting "you're the a-hole" because OP doesn't want to leave her kids behind. We're voting "you're the a-hole" because of OP's attitude and clear dislike of her sister-in-law. OP sucks ass, and not because of her kids. Posted by user TA I should count too. Titled, "Am I the a-hole for telling my mum we haven't had a good relationship in a long time and I wanted to go live with my dad? I, 16 female, used to have a good relationship with my mother. That time has since crashed and burned since she dated and married my stepdad, Gary, 6 years ago. Gary treats his son, Ian, 19 male, like he's the center of the universe and expects my mother to as well, so she does. Anything Ian wants, Ian gets, and that usually comes at the expense of me. Ian wanted my room when they moved it. I was forced to go to another room to make the transition easier for everyone. Ian wanted a car for his 16th birthday. I didn't get braces for another year. Ian wanted to go on an expensive trip for spring break. I had to give up volleyball to make it happen. Ian wanted to have his side of the family over. I was expected to find somewhere else to be, since I wasn't family. My mother just went along with all of this and acted like it shouldn't affect me at all. My dad was overseas for a long time, and we used to FaceTime and he was so upset by what he was hearing. He's home now, and he's offering to have me come live with him. I'm not seeing a reason not to go, and so I told my mom I wanted to go live with my dad. She predictably freaked out and asked why I'd want to do that, and said that we had such a good relationship she didn't understand how this came so out of the blue. I told her that we haven't had a good relationship since she blindly decided to follow Gary's lead and to give Ian anything he wanted, and it always came at my expense. My mum tried to argue, so I said I also wanted to leave because she let them kick me out of my own house because I wasn't family. So I was going to go live with someone who was. My mum started crying and said she wouldn't let me go. So I told her that my dad was willing to go to court over it, and I was old enough to be able to stay where I wanted to be. She's been a crying mess since I told her, and Gary is being a jerk about how awful I'm being. Here's where I might be the a-hole. He was tramping at me about how terribly I'm treating them, and how I'm not thinking about them at all. I asked why should I? He never thought of me when he was taking things from me to give to his kid. I said let's face the facts here. You don't care about me. What you care about is losing the child support you spend on your son. He sort of went slack-jawed and I walked off. My dad said my mum called and threatened to take him to court, so he said he'd see her there. Now she's panicking because she realized that he's planning on taking her to court over this. Mum and Gary, of course, think I'm the a-hole for making things hard for everyone, that's what she said, but my dad and grandparents said to leave her and never look back. Am I the a-hole for wanting to get away from this situation? And OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the a-hole. I might be the a-hole because I was rude to Gary and made my mum cry. That's fair. It doesn't feel good to make someone cry, and it doesn't feel good to do that to other people. But I think you were justified in this situation, and I don't think you should feel too bad about what you did. I feel like what they did to you was leagues worse than whatever you dished out to them. Theirs seemingly has been a lifetime of just ignoring you, your wants, your needs, and putting you down. This is a one-time of you firing back and, upsetting them. I don't really think those two are comparable, and I think they deserved that from you. So because of that, I think you're not the a-hole, and I think you should move in with your dad. In the comments, Mula Dak says, not the a-hole. I think you hit the nail on the head when you said that he was worried about losing your child support. I hope your mother has a HON because she's going to have to pay child support to your dad. Exactly. The expensive vacation, his car, and God knows what else for Ian was likely taken out of the child support for her. That's her money. Gary is big mad because his free money is being taken away. OP, let them stay mad. Take care of yourself and let your dad take care of you too. Nothing that's happening is your fault. Be well and best of luck. Hopefully not only will he lose that child support, but with any luck, they will have to pay support to OP's father and he can recoup some of what was spent on Ian. Demonic Symphony says, not the a-hole. Go to your dad's house. I'm so sorry this is going on. And make sure the judge knows about all the suspiciously expensive items Ian is getting. That money is your child support, I guarantee it, and you've had to give up items that should be bought with that money. I'm enraged on your behalf. Judges don't like that either. Ever. The judge will drag your mother across the coals, and it'll be well deserved. She failed you. Big time. So I just want to tell you that I'm a random internet person, but I'm super proud of you for standing up for yourself. Gary is a crook, and your mum is helping him. Get out of that house and not the a-hole, obviously. And Rookin Sartak says, I used to be a social worker, so I've got to add my 2 cents. While I 100% agree you're not the a-hole, you should be aware of just a couple of things before you go through with everything. Things will change for the better, but you're going to have some growing pains with your dad most likely. In divorce situations, the parent you don't live with usually gets to be the fun parent. In your case, you've got fun dad, but that relationship is going to have to change in order for your dad to be a good father to you. He can still be fun, but you should know that he's also going to have to be do your homework dad, and there's going to have to be some consequences for this dad. In my experience, the transition is easier for a child of a divorce that has been informed ahead of time that fun dad has to change. So, 2 cents is given. Good luck, OP. Posted by user ThrowawayNannies899. Titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my girlfriend her nannies were paid to raise her? Throwaway account because I don't want this linked to my Reddit account. I, 21 male, have a girlfriend named Anna, 21 female, who comes from a very rich family, while I came from a middle-class family. And while I did grow up with a lot of privileges, none of them were in the same level as hers. Anna grew up in a home where house staff, nannies, and bodyguards were commonplace. And while she's a very nice and down-to-earth person, she always had a very sheltered reality. For example, she's the kind of person who has a savings account, doesn't eat out every day, and regularly donates to charity, but thinks that Apple products are perfect gifts for whenever she doesn't know what to get someone. A few days back, we were talking about holidays, and I asked her how she spent her Mother's Day, since her mother died when she was a baby and her father never remarried. She just said that the only unusual thing she did on Mother's Day was that she visited her mum's grave in the morning with her father. I got confused by that. Then I asked her how she spent the rest of the day, and she mentioned that growing up she would make cards and give them to the nannies, and they would spend the day playing and eating the sweets that she asked her father to order. I just kind of laughed at that point, and she asked me what I was laughing about. Then I told her, you know, the nannies were just doing their jobs right. She got annoyed and told me that she knew, but they raised and loved her, and the least she could do was to give them their due. And that is where I think I might be the a-hole. After she told me that, I joked, yeah, I bet the fat paycheck certainly helped them to love you. Because when I said that, she got quiet, grabbed her things, and left. Since then, she's been cold towards me and told me she's rethinking our relationship, but I really think she's overreacting. What do you guys think? Am I the a-hole? OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the a-hole. My girlfriend clearly thinks I'm the a-hole and is considering breaking up with me over it. Well, yeah, I feel like you were self-aware of what you were saying in this situation, and I don't see what she's done wrong here at all. She shared a memory that she had with nannies because she was raised in a fortunate household. And, you know, you're kind of asking this question because you believe that she was somehow wrong for sharing that? Did you feel slighted when she told you about her nannies? I don't get how you think this is a possible situation where you might not be the a-hole. In what universe is what she's done a bad thing? She shared a childhood memory, and then you laughed in her face about it. You deserve her having those thoughts of breaking up with you. You're the a-hole. And in the comments, you're the a-hole. As a nanny? Wow! You're not just an asshole, you're nasty. The paycheck pays my bills. It doesn't make me love my charges any more or less. You literally told your girlfriend people were paid to love her. You owe her the biggest apology and months of begging for forgiveness. As a teacher, I get behind that totally. These are not jobs you do merely for the paycheck. Fat? Please. Even if it was a fat paycheck, it doesn't make up for the hoops and BS. If you don't love kids, there's no way you're going to be a nanny or an educator. The Mirror's Truth says, you're the a-hole. How heartless can you be? Here's how it sounds. Haha, you're so stupid, you think they'd love you? You motherless child. One thing to love about you is your money. As someone who has worked in the childcare sector, including being a nanny, unless you're being pretty cold, you can't help but love and care about the kids we take care of. You need to love what you do to be good at it. Really glad she's rethinking her relationship with you. You seem mean. It's mind-boggling that someone can be totally devoid of empathy. No one is a nanny because they love the fat paychecks, and the paychecks aren't typically that fat. They do it because they like kids. Yeah, exactly. Unless you exclusively cater to the rich and famous, you're not getting rich off being a nanny. And PR Mink says, you're the a-hole, a huge a-hole. She lost her mother when she was a baby and was raised by nannies from this young age. I imagine she's very attached to them, much like family, and I would guess they love her too. I honestly can't understand why this would bother you to the point where you felt the need to tear her down. It's probably because you're generally a judgmental a-hole. Who cares if she gifts Apple products? Apparently you do. Are you jealous? Your comments were cruel. You owe her an enormous apology and would be lucky if she decided to accept it. And back to the post, OP puts in an edit. So, After I posted my post and saw how it blew up with everyone ripping me into a new one, I was still skeptical. But then after I read some comments doing a breakdown of my post and pointing out how bad was the crap I said, I started to think that maybe I was in the wrong. Then I started receiving messages from many actual incels saying that they agree with me. After those messages, I saw that yeah, I'm an a-hole. I went and apologized to my girlfriend. Told her I was being an ignorant, spiteful, malicious idiot. I quoted some of you guys, lol. And that what I want her to know was that what I said was bullcrap, and that even if she never forgave, she should know that I was just being a jerk for the hell of it, and she did nothing wrong. She told me she knew that I was speaking out of my ass and forgave me for what I said, but decided to dump me anyway. If things go well, we'll still be friends. If not, at least we're parting ways amicably. She'll be fine. Said she'll go and spend time with her father back at home for a while. I decided to stay single until I sorted out my own issues, and that's it. Believe it or not, but I read every single reply and saw how wrong I was about nannies and, by default, all care workers. I won't justify what I said because I think it would be a cheap attempt to erase that I was grade A expletive, but I will apologize anyway. Sorry for being an ignorant, dismissive, dehumanizing, classist jerk who dismissed the emotional aspect of these types of jobs. No one has to forgive, but I want to apologize anyway. Well, thank you all for the inputs and insults. I very much needed them. Posted by user Throwaway30164. Titled, Am I the a-hole for laughing at my mum after she and my dad insisted I tell my friend's boyfriend to leave my house? So I, female 20, moved out on my 18th birthday and never looked back. I mostly moved out due to how strict my parents were. When I say strict, I don't mean something like home by 10 p.m. I mean, I wasn't allowed to have friends older than me, even by a few months. I wasn't even allowed any guy friends. If I had a project to work on at school and got partnered with a guy, my mum would tell my teachers to make me do it alone. I was only allowed on my phone if someone, mum or dad, was there to monitor what I was doing. Weekdays, my bedtime was 9 p.m, and weekends, 9:30 p.m. I could only have sleepovers if it was at my house, and all of my friends have to be questioned to make sure they were clean, meaning they didn't have boyfriends, no tattoos, went to church, you get it. So you can imagine, I had literally 1 or 2 friends. By 18, I didn't have any plans. I just packed my stuff and left. My parents weren't happy and tried for months to get me to come home, but I didn't plan on it. Anyway, I landed a damn good job and was able to get my first apartment shortly after. My friend is over at my house almost every day with her boyfriend, and we just hang out. I didn't cut out all contact with my parents, but I limited to only special occasions. My mum wanted to have a Zoom family call, whatever it's called, and asked me to join. I figured, what the hell, I'll join and say hi. As I'm talking to my little cousin, in the background, you could see my friend's boyfriend come into the living room area. Everyone's face kind of froze, and I didn't think much of it. My mum asked who it was, and I told her, and immediately she gets annoyed. She started asking why he was leaving my bedroom, which he didn't. The bathroom is the same way towards the bedroom, so I could see why it would look like he left from my room. She and my dad proceeds to ask me why I have guys at my home. Why is he 21 hanging around me? I just turned 20, but yeah, it was like I was 15 again. My mum then insists I have him leave. At this point, my friend and her boyfriend hears this and goes like, "What the hell?" I didn't know what else to do but laugh, and I said, "Are you out of your mind?" And I laughed some more. I realized they were serious and said my goodbyes and hung up. Later, I started getting messages that my parents are upset. I laughed at them, and my family says it's in my best interest to apologize because I was being an a-hole for laughing. Am I the a-hole for laughing? Not much to add to this one. Obviously, you realized that your parents were being crazy. Your family doesn't realize that your parents are being crazy and they think that that's a justifiable action. And if that family wants to support this stupid hive mind mentality that you're not allowed to hang out with anyone older than you, then yeah, there's really no justification for that. I think it's fair that you cut all of them off and continue to laugh in their face, because no sane, logical person would ever think that what you're doing is a bad thing. That's called socializing and having friends, and your parents intentionally kept that from you for most of your life. Shame on them, and shame on the family for enabling them, not the a-hole OP. Future Ambition 1859 says, not the a-hole. You're an adult living in your own house. You can have whoever you like visiting. Your parents have some serious issues. Right? OP is lucky she has her head screwed on straight because her parents did everything in their power to mess that up. She's amazing that she was able to move out and just be an adult and realize what is a more normal way to live, and good for her. Amazingly not the a-hole. Her parents are whack. Bunny Orange 93 says, not the a-hole. Some people might say it's disrespectful to laugh at your parents demanding something, but context is key here. You've had enough, you're old enough, and you're out on your own. You're not under their roof, so they don't get to keep policing who is allowed in and out of your house. However, since now you know your parents will likely pull stunts like this in the future, it's best to get ready to deal with that if you keep contact with them. By all means, I think you're right to do whatever you want now, but be prepared for the conflict that keeping them involved in your life will bring. Also, if you're suggesting something ridiculous, it's not the other party's fault to laugh at you. Don't say ridiculous things if you don't want to be laughed at. And Medjai91 says, not the a-hole. I would laugh at your family that told you to apologize too. Keep laughing until they all realize they sound like one big joke. Posted by user Morgan Clint XXX, titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to visit my brother and his newborn because of what he did 2 years ago? I, male 33, lost my wife 2 years ago. Right now, I'm a single dad of my 9-year-old son. My wife had cancer. It was too much for her to take, but she always said that our son was her strength. She was receiving treatment and spending time at home with our son. She always said that she wanted to spend as much time at home with our son as possible. She just knew. I took care of our son's needs, as well as our household. Her family was very supportive. Her sister helped by driving her to the hospital, but my family didn't do much. My brother, age 37, kept coming over and making comments about how our house was a mess and unhealthy for our son. Claimed that he was being neglected, and asked what would happen to him after my wife passed away. He bluntly said that it was unfair for our son to live like that, and kept being negative and telling those things to my wife, making her feel bad and worried. I told him to stop coming over and just leave us alone. I was angry with him and I went low contact, and 1 month passed before my wife passed away. I had a visit from the Child Protective Services. My wife was home when they came. They did an interview with me and my son. I explained my wife's condition, and they talked to her sister and informed me that someone called them and filed a report about our situation and possible neglect in our house. Eventually, nothing came out of the report. My wife never stopped crying. She got very sick that night, and I'm sure she felt helpless as if she was a bad mother. I assured her that she was in fact stronger than most people, and that the report was nothing, so she shouldn't have been worried. But she couldn't help it. My dad called me a week after, telling me to be careful, that my brother reported me to the CPS, and was bragging about it, hoping they would take action. I was livid. I got into a huge argument with him and all who defended him, and I cut contact with him right then. After my wife's funeral, no one visited except for her sister. I talked to my family, but I haven't talked to my brother for 2 years after what he did and all the stress that he caused my wife. Last week, my mum called me to tell me my brother and his wife had a baby boy and wanted me to bring my son to visit him. I refused. She called me unreasonable and told me to let my son meet his cousin and uncle, to just forgive and forget. She kept pressuring me despite saying I don't want to. My dad himself said it's time for us to reconcile and get together as a family. I ended up yelling at them that I won't forget the scene my brother made before my wife passed away, and claiming that we were bad parents, knowing that we were struggling and doing all we can. They just kept insisting I visit and see how it goes, but I still refused. My brother didn't apologize. I only talked to my parents. This is his first baby with his wife. They had issues with miscarriages in the past. And OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the a-hole. Perhaps I should let my son have a relationship with his cousin because they're innocent in this. I might be wrong for not getting over what he did, but I could still feel my wife's hurt that day. I guess there's an argument to be made that it could be a dick move for you not letting them have a relationship together as young kids. But your kids are 9 years apart, and I don't see much of a relationship happening, at least for the next few years, while the baby isn't able to actually form a relationship with your son. You were definitely still hurting from the incidents pre your wife's passing, during it, and post it. He could have chosen not to do any of that, yet he went right ahead and continued to pester you the entire time. You have absolutely no reason to facilitate a relationship with the kids, it'll just bring more pain. I don't see any value in that, but I can see why you would think you're an a-hole for it, because, hey, it's great to have relationships between family. But this is a family you don't want to have a relationship, and I'd say you're justified in keeping them apart. And also keeping your distance from that family, not the a-hole. In the comments, Dumpster FFF says, "Not the a-hole. I'd let them all know you'll go no contact with them too if they keep this up. Last I checked, the sister was the only one actually helping and the only one to come to your wife's funeral. They all suck." Not disagreeing in general, but I think you misread about the funeral. I'm fairly sure what it means to say is that only the wife's sister visited after the funeral, although I think the wording is a little unclear. That's what I misunderstood too. His family did nothing to help before or after the funeral. He was already struggling to keep things together while his wife was dying, and his a-hole of a brother dropped CPS on him. Then after she died, they still didn't do crap to help him and their grandson. The more I think about it, I'm not quite sure what the OP has had to talk about with his parents for the past 2 years. The comment replying to that got removed by moderator, but the next one has a lot of rewards, so I have to read it, by Dark Twisted Lady. Emotionally immature people make terrible parents. Emotionally immature people are inherently selfish and entitled, who prioritize satisfying their own needs and feelings while disregarding the consequences for other people. They tend to view their family as extensions of themselves, and/or objects to do with as they please, rather than independent people with independent personalities, needs, and wants, caring more about their image and what other people think than what their children feel. This is why they play favorites with their children, making a golden child out of the one behaving most like themselves, while scapegoating the one telling the truth. Truths are not welcome. They disturb the selfish, entitled parents' ideas about the family image, and the truth hurts their feelings and are thus bad, as is the truth-sayer. Entitled parents view love as a limited resource, so their children are often fighting against each other in order to be loved by the parents. Single children from such parents become super messed up from their parents' shifting view of them, as they must fulfill all of the roles in the abusive family. For people who grew up in a loving, caring family, surrounded by infinite love, and as subjects in their own life, the dynamics of abusive people are almost impossible to understand. A word of warning. Failing to establish healthy boundaries enforced with natural consequences for our demanding and difficult child means to raise a child that will become a selfish, entitled, emotionally immature adult who will abuse other people. As this pandemic has made abundantly clear to everybody, being selfish is evil. I'm going to leave that one there and look at Big Butt Effa, who says, not the a-hole. He tried to have your son removed from you while your wife was dying and bragged about it. He'd be dead to me. The class act would be to help clean up the house. This was despicable, not the a-hole. He has a kid now? Call CPS. Maybe I'm paranoid, but given the brother's wife's miscarriages and how he kept pressing and harassing OP, maybe he was hoping that OP would lose custody and the brother could have a free kid. Or maybe he was super bitter that someone he felt as undeserving had a kid and he didn't. Unforgivable. And Odd the Dog says, not the a-hole. Kinda hard to forgive people who haven't even apologized. Also, he didn't even call you himself to tell you he wanted you and your son to visit. He tagged your mom into it. You don't owe him any of your attention or time. Posted by user Not Surprised Sis 23498, titled, Am I the a-hole for saying I'm not surprised my sister is single and has trouble finding a good man? Don't get me wrong. Her list of must-haves in a partner aren't all outrageous or anything. They are, must have a good stable job, no kids, a degree, no drugs, not alcoholic, can pull his own weight financially speaking in the relationship, either owns or is working towards owning a house. Not unusual stuff. The thing is, she cannot bring very many of those to the table herself. She has a degree in Greek literature and isn't an alcoholic. She has 3 kids, which is why her demand for a man without kids strikes me as a what the F. Lives with mum, working as the front desk lady while working on a book, loves weed brownies. She does not have a min-max age requirement, she is 32, and I don't think it matters, but I have a feeling someone would ask if I didn't mention it. Now, it's not like I said it to her face. I was talking to mum on the phone. I guess sis has been more and more upset about dating prospects and doesn't understand why it's so hard. Never mind the pandemic going on making it harder for everyone single to date right now. Mum was going on about how she, mum, doesn't understand how such a good gal like our sister is still single and having these problems. Even you have a boyfriend, and you're even more of a shut-in than I am. That rubbed me the wrong way. And frankly, I was sick of mum spending almost every call with me talking about my big sister instead of acting like she cares about what's going on in my life. So I laid it out. I told mum that sis being single didn't surprise me a single bit. She has demands that seem reasonable but cannot meet any of them herself. Why would she expect someone that meets her list to choose her when she can't meet her own standards over someone that they're more of a lifestyle match with? I used spicier language than that, but that's basically it. A few hours later, I got a text from my sister saying, "Thanks for being honest about how you really feel, C-word." Haven't heard from either of them since, and I'm not even sure where to go from here. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the a-hole. I might be the a-hole because I basically called my sister a failure in life who doesn't deserve a good man. Okay, here's one of the rare times we've found that OP giving the explanation for why they think they might be the a-hole has actually swayed my opinion here. To me, I was kind of on OP's side for this one. I was like, the intention there was that, hey, she wasn't meeting the standards, and that's all that OP meant by it. But now that they've pointed out, they called the sister a failure in life who doesn't deserve a good man. Just the failure in life part rubs me the wrong way. I agree with OP in the sense that the sister not meeting her own standards is a bit, what the hell's going on there? But calling the sister a failure in life, I don't agree with. I think the sister does deserve a good man, and I don't think because of her predisposed lifestyle or whatever she's doing with her life, that doesn't make her a failure in life. That just makes her someone that's not living up to the standards that she wants a guy to be living up to. That's not a failure, that's just a different way to live your life. The sister is obviously no amazing catch because she says, "Thanks for being honest about how you really feel, C-word," instead of taking this criticism about her lifestyle and changing for the better. There's obviously some bad blood still going on at the age of 32. Thought we might move on from these kind of little tiffs and fights we have in between family at this age, but apparently not, and the mum seems to be enabling it from both sides. That's a lot of whataboutisms I'm throwing about here, but seems like the case to me. I'm gonna go with everyone sucks here. Finch Dad says, "Probably everyone sucks here. You conveniently left out your spicier language. This sounds like typical family bickering, competition, and infighting, and the fact that your mother is involved the way she is, even you have a boyfriend, indicates that all members of your family might suck. You're entitled to defend yourself, but don't try and whitewash your role in the situation." But it was her mother who called her a shut-in, not the sister in question. It was uncalled for. Right, which is why everyone, from spicy language OP to denigrating mother to urine C-word sister, sucks. Embarrassed Bridge 8 says, "Everyone sucks here. I don't think her standards are actually unreasonable. If I had 3 kids, I'd probably prefer to find a man without children so my kids could avoid step-siblings, and I also would definitely not ever want more than 3 kids in one household. Your mum sucks for ratting on you. I assume that's how your sister heard. Also, front desk lady, at least respect people with their job title. Prefer what you want. She shouldn't be shocked her kids are baggage someone without kids would want to avoid. Obviously, the majority of people without kids will prefer those without kids." It didn't sound like she was to me. I thought the sister was upset at being single, and it was the mother who was like, "Oh my god, why?" Yeah, fair point. We don't know the full conversation between them. It's hard to judge, isn't it? If sister is being a raging hypocrite, then that would change my judgment for sure. The hard part is that from the post, the sister isn't being a raging hypocrite to OP. From what we understand, she's speaking to her mum about her problems, it's just super hard to say. And Mozzie6269 says, "Don't think this is a question. I think you're exaggerating some details and fabricating some stuff, but overall not the a-hole." OP is the a-hole for dragging someone who wasn't even involved in the conversation and going all shocked Pikachu when the person she crap-talked behind their back found out and called OP out on it. Her mum is also an a-hole because she insulted OP. OP should have stopped the conversation with her mother, not attack a person who wasn't even on the phone with her. This is a hard one for me. I'm still going to stick with my judgments, but it feels like we need more information to get a better, understanding of this story. I don't think we're going to get it, and I think that it's just, as people said, infighting when there shouldn't be infighting. Do you guys have to face similar situations like this? Do you think that the mother should have ratted OP out to the sister? Because I think that's a bit of a dog act from the mum to be like, "Oh, this is what your sister's saying about you." Are we not allowed to criticize our own family members without the person we're trying to vent with spreading that to the person we're talking about? Obviously, we can keep those thoughts to ourselves, but sometimes help can come from figuring things out with another family member and working out a way to help others. Obviously, we don't know if the intention of OP in this situation was to help their sister. To me, it did kind of seem like she was attacking the sister, and that's wrong. So I'll leave it up to you guys. I'd love to know what you think in the comments. Posted by user Pristine Scarcity 412, titled, "Am I the a-hole for not being nice to the people trying to force me to sell my home? A large company is trying to buy up all the houses in my area for a luxury resort with a golf field, pool, and other things. A few days ago, I got a knock on my door, and someone came over and she told me she was offering to buy my home, willing to give me 5% over market value. Their bullcrap market value is less than I bought it for. I politely said, "No, I'm sorry, but I'm not interested at all in selling my house. Have a good day." She kept trying to sell the house, and I told her to have a good day. 3 days later, she came back with a new offer, now 7.5% over market value. I said the same thing. "Please go away, I am not interested." The next day, someone else called me, and I just hung up on them. All of my neighbors have been getting the same thing. Some are deciding to sell, but most are refusing. That same lady comes over, and I was outside doing my yard maintenance and says, "Hello, good news. We have a better offer for you. 12% over market value. That's great, isn't it? Surely we can work something out." I then asked, "Do you have kids? A pet?" She then responded back and said, "I have a son and 2 cats. Why?" I then said, "How much for your son? I'll give you 15K for him, and 2K for both of your cats." She confusedly said, "Those aren't for sale." So I responded back, "Okay, a-hole, neither is my house. I hope you understand now. Get the hell off my property and never come back. You're not welcome here or anywhere in this neighborhood." She said, "Listen, I tried being nice to you. Your house will be sold, and we will try other legal means to get your house." I said, "Did you not understand what I said? Get the F off my property, you ugly, disgusting tramp." And then she left. I'm scared that this company is going to try to use dominio eminente to force me to sell my house. Personally, I think that you did the right thing in this situation. Being mean to people doesn't particularly make you an a-hole. She wouldn't leave you alone, you were being harassed, you're getting calls, everyone else is getting calls. Feel like that's a whirlwind enough of just nuisance and nonsense that you're more than welcome to throw out whatever you want to get her away. If they won't leave you alone, just escalate until they do. Sounds good to me. I'm gonna go with not the a-hole for this one. And in the comments, Winnery says, "Not the a-hole. I think it's time to speak with neighbors who don't wish to sell, then speak with a lawyer together. If this woman is threatening to take your home through eminent domain, then speaking to a legal expert is probably your best bet." This right here. The moment they started with the calls, she should have lawyered up. You can't afford to not lawyer up in these sort of cases, because that company has made it clear they'll do anything they can, and that woman's attitude towards OP in the end just proved that. Texas VDR says, "Not the a-hole. You're under no obligation to be polite to people who can't take no for an answer. But companies trying to take over property aren't known for being super nice themselves. So I'd ask an attorney for advice on how to protect yourself." Agreed. Other legal means could be a bluff, but better to talk to someone in law to protect yourself just in case. And Spindercinder says, "Not the a-hole. I also don't see how eminent domain applies. Eminent domain applies to that which is built for public use. A luxury resort is a private business. You might want to get the neighbors that are staying to start a letter writing campaign. To Congress, the mayor, the judge that might oversee the eminent domain that may or may not happen. Nip it in the bud. If you show that you and others will fight tooth and nail from the start, they may see it as too costly a venture to move forward with. Also, maybe contact the media. Bad press won't be good for their resort." And OP replies, "Sometimes in my country, and others, they argue that a business will be public use in that it will create jobs, more tax revenue, and provide services for the community. I'm worried that they might do this." What country do you live in, OP? Dominio eminente is Spanish, which narrows it down a little bit. Yep. Only a few rare places in the world that they speak Spanish. Should be really easy to figure it out by process of elimination now. But yeah, Thick Fennel 2 says, "It's happened in the US before. A bunch of folks in Connecticut famously had their homes demolished to make way for a housing development to serve a Pfizer plant. The developer couldn't get financing in the end, so the development never even got built. But all the land had already been taken by that point." And Kubwis replies, "Yep. In my home state of Wisconsin, the doomed crappy deal our former governor made with a foreign company to bring jobs that never came, led to people being forced out of their homes. Anyway, moving on. Our next post is by user InsideBat2208, titled, Am I the a-hole for hiding my girlfriend's sentimental forks? My girlfriend, who I moved in with last year, received some cutlery when her auntie passed away the other year. It isn't particularly nice or valuable, but she likes it for sentimental reasons. I hate eating with these forks, as the tangs are too close together and it really minimizes the amount of food I can eat in one forkful. I began hiding the forks in my work van, one every 3 or 4 weeks until they were all hidden. I claimed ignorance, and that seemed to be going pretty well. Anyway, a couple of months passed by, with me enjoying having properly sized eating implements, when I gave her a lift in my van to work on the Monday. She opened the glove box and found all of the forks. She is quite upset due to the emotional nature of the forks, and also that I would be dishonest about something so small. The forks are back in their regular rotation now, and I can feel the resentment growing and growing whenever I fetch a properly sized fork to eat my dinner with, when she has knowingly set out a tiny fork to eat my dinner with. So Reddit, am I the a-hole for hiding my girlfriend's tiny forks? I think this one is pretty self-explanatory. There is no good reason for you to have been hiding the forks. You don't really give a good argument for why you're not the a-hole in this situation. They hold emotional value to her, you didn't apologize, you didn't try to come up with a counter-argument to her as to why this is affecting you so personally. You kind of just admitted that you sucked in this situation, and then you're still doubling down by intentionally going to grab bigger forks without making amends of this situation. This reads like you've already signed out of this relationship, and I question why you're still going on with all of this. You're continuously adding fuel to the fire by grabbing the fork knowing that it affects her. Why are you doing this? Why haven't you left yet? You're the a-hole. And in the comments, Millie30 says, what's up with all these recent stories of men who decide they don't like something their significant other is doing or has in the house, so they just decide on their own to get rid of it? Of course you're the a-hole. If you want a different fork, use your words to ask for one, or better yet, go get another one out of the drawer. Right? It's a case of I don't like it or them. I'm not man enough or mature enough to have a conversation about it. I am, however, petty, devious, and deceitful enough to steal something sentimental and lie about it. The forks are back in regular rotation, and girlfriend knowingly sets them out. I am so lazy and incompetent that I cannot get up and go get myself a shovel so I can enjoy my meal. You're the a-hole, you're the a-hole, and in case you didn't get it, you're the a-hole. Breathing Corpse 252 says, you're the a-hole. Okay, so let me do a quick count. Mason jar guy, drawings guy, prom photo guy, that one sucked. Pokemon plushie guy, yeah, that was bad. Skincare products guy, that was scum of the earth, that one. Tea kettle guy, yeah, that sucked. Salad dressing guy, oh no. What in the frick frack snickety snack is wrong with these men? I also can't get over the one where OP's fiancé or something continuously adds salt to the meals and he just adds an insane amount. And OP made a crock pot of food and just this guy dumped a crap ton of salt in the crock pot to the point where I don't think any normal person could even eat it. And he's like, ugh, why'd you throw up my food out? What's the problem? You're a terrible person, OP. I hate you. Some of these stories are just so funny and stupid. I love it. Geeky Girl 81 says, the guy who hid the colourful socks he didn't want his girlfriend using, the girl who got rid of comic or education-themed ties her primary school teacher boyfriend wore, that was so bad. The guy who went mad his kindergarten teacher's girlfriend wore her colourful themed dresses that she wore to work for dinner with his mum after work one night, and he found it embarrassing. Too many a-holes. And Lively Sally says, you're the a-hole, for stealing and lying and being ridiculously immature. You resent her for having to grab yourself a fork? Is compromise a foreign word for you? You could have avoided all of that by getting and eating with your own forks. This is what really blows my mind. Like, he could have just walked over to the silverware drawer and exchanged forks, or told his girlfriend he preferred using a different fork. What is the steps in the thought process between, I don't like using these forks, and I'm hiding these forks so no one can use them? Guess this is just another one of many to add to the a-hole pile, but it's funny, and I hope that OP gets broke up with for that one because he sucks. Not much more to say. Hope you guys enjoyed. Posted by user Am I the A-hole friend car 1234. Titled, Am I the a-hole for not switching places with my friend and ruining her life? This happened a couple weeks ago, but I'm still getting crap about it. A friend of mine, Daya, fake name, asked me if I wanted to come with her on some errands and see her new car. I said yes because I had some things to get done and my car was being checked over. We're in the same bubble and stayed masked the whole time. Well, while we were out, Daya ended up hitting another car while turning left. We were both shaken but mostly fine, but when I started to call the police, Daya started freaking out even more. She started begging me not to call the cops and to just go talk to the other driver. I didn't feel comfortable not calling them, so I went ahead and did. Then Daya started begging me to get in the driver's seat, saying I had to get in the driver's seat. I had to claim that I was the one driving. Turns out Daya doesn't have a license. She needed or wanted a car, but didn't feel like getting her license, so her mum bought the car for her. I didn't feel comfortable lying to the police, so I continued to refuse and just got out of the car and waited on the sidewalk for them to get there. Well, Daya got arrested for driving without a license, insurance, or registration for her car, and just told me today she has been found at fault for the incident. Now Daya, her mum, and half of our friends are saying I'm an a-hole for not just switching places. She is now facing multiple fines, possible jail time, and being kicked out of our MA program because of all of this. I tried to explain that I didn't feel comfortable lying to the police, but she just keeps calling me a privileged tramp and wishing horrible things would happen to me. So am I the a-hole for not switching places with her? Edit. Several people have said that I should include this, and I'm sorry I didn't in the original post. This was much more serious than a fender bender. This was my response to someone else. She took the entire front of his car off, or at least it looked like it. We were at an intersection, and she was in a left turn lane with a yellow light and didn't look before she went. The other gentleman was coming the opposite way going straight. Both cars are totaled. The gentleman was not unconscious as I originally thought, but he did hit his head on the steering wheel and he had to be taken to the hospital. He did eventually get out of his car with help, and that's when I believe I should have talked to him. Daya and I were mostly alright, with just some bumps and bruises. Edit 2, someone suggested I add this because of people saying I'm the a-hole for calling the police, but for major accidents such as this one where I live, you are required by law to call the police and file a report. I think this is just a clear, not the a-hole moment right here. I don't think it's the moral or legal thing to do for you to take over for her. Daya intentionally did all of these things knowingly and drove stupidly on the day to cause an at-fault accident. It doesn't sound like she's in a situation where she can't pay her license, insurance, or registration. She just didn't want to. And it's kinda too bad, so sad when you crash the car and you're like freaking out about it because the worst case scenario happened. Daya doesn't sound much of a good friend for trying to get you to take the fall for this one, because then you'd be driving an unlicensed, unregistered car, and that's just an absolute no-go in my books. You're not the a-hole for not switching places with her, neither are you for calling the cops. You did everything that you should have done in this situation, she did everything she shouldn't have done, and that's her fault. Not the a-hole. Now in the comments, Revolutionary Bus 448 says, not the a-hole. You could get into financial, legal trouble, insurance fraud for lying. You did the right thing. She's mad because she brought all of this on herself. Daya is not a friend. Her request to switch seats would have landed OP in unnecessary legal and financial trouble. Everything she did that day is contrary to what a friend is supposed to do. Did she even ask OP if you were okay after the accident? I would cut her out of my life and block anyone trying to blame you for not taking the fall. If the man had died, she could be charged with manslaughter too. There would have been a criminal trial and everything would have been effed. Also, the guy could still have complications weeks after the accident. Doesn't matter if it's years later either. If he dies due to complications way down the line, that's still murder. Or manslaughter, come on Reddit. I Am Heart of Fight says, no, don't drive without a license. She wasn't even doing something heroic. She was running errands. If Daya is this mean to you, she's not a good friend. This isn't a white lie. This is literally not having a license or insurance. Doing some dumb show-off car run, being in an MA program and getting her mum and friends to gang up on you. Find better friends. I 100% agree. But what does being in an MA program have to do with finding better people? It means she's not a teenager out for a joyride, but an adult woman who knows right from wrong. And Dirty Workout Clothes says, not the a-hole. She ruined her own life. She and her mum chose to be irresponsible, and not only did they do something illegal, but then asked you to do something illegal too. Block her on all platforms. If she continues to harass you because she's an idiot that did idiotic things, tell her you'll inform the police that you were being harassed. Posted by user BThrowawayBthrow, titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my mother-in-law that I'm not the one with fertility issues? Me, 32 male, and my wife, 32 female, have been trying to have a baby for several years now. Unfortunately, she is probably unable to get pregnant. We've run several tests, and it's only hers that come back with bad news. Additionally, I accidentally got a girl pregnant a few years before I met my wife. The girl had an abortion. Point is, I can produce kids, but my wife probably can't. I don't blame this on my wife at all. In fact, I'm excited to talk about our other options. Adoption, surrogates, etc. I love my wife so much and I want to raise kids together, even if it's not biological. I was on the phone with my wife's mum the other day, and she started saying some weird stuff. She said it was okay that I couldn't have kids, but maybe we could find a sperm donor for my wife, and that she knew I'd be a good dad, even if the kid wasn't related to me, etc. I was so confused. So I told my mother-in-law that my wife was the one who was having fertility issues. My mother-in-law told me that my wife told her that I was the one with fertility issues. I was sure it was a harmless misunderstanding. So I talked about it with my wife, and she got really mad at me. She said I had no right to tell her mum that she was having issues getting pregnant. She said it was something very personal to her, and she felt awful just thinking about how her mum now knew that it was her fault we can't have kids easily. It's not her fault. She didn't choose to have these issues. She said that it was her mum, and I should have just gone along with it because she always wanted to be seen as good and capable in her mum's eyes. I feel bad, but I had no idea she had told her mum it was me. Also, I don't know why she had to say who had issues with fertility when she couldn't just say that we are having issues. My wife said I was an a-hole for telling her mum. Am I? OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the a-hole. You might say I'm the a-hole because I told my wife's mum her private business, because I never even thought to have that conversation with my wife, and because my wife's mum now thinks my wife is a liar. Isn't this just a double standard then? Was there a precedent set that it's okay for your wife to talk about her private business with her mother, but not for you to talk about it? And then vice versa, she's talking about your private business with her mum also? So any and all communication about private issues is fine as long as it's the wife and the mother, but as soon as you get involved in this equation, it's a bad thing. I'm trying to comprehend what's going on here because this is just some stupid, flawed logic. I don't get why you would lie about that in the first place. I can get why you're self-conscious about it, but why lie and say that it's your husband? What do you have to gain from that? Are you being shunned by the family? I can understand in the wife's situation if the family is abusive and they're going to lay this on her, that she'd rather just lie and put it on the husband and then talk about it with him later. But it doesn't sound like in that realm any communication was had, and the husband hasn't pointed to the family being abusive. I don't understand why she would lie about this. I feel like there is absolutely no issue with OP communicating with the wife's mother. I feel like that's something you would talk about because you'd want her to be aware and her to help you guys through this process. And that's evidenced further by the fact that the mum says, hey, I support you guys. You will be an amazing father even if it's not your sperm. So I feel like the onus of all of this lies solely on the wife in this situation. She has some communication issues and she needs to, step up, I think, and be better next time. This isn't a deal breaker by any sense. This is just a frustrating issue to go through. I'm going to go with not the a-hole on this one, OP. In the comments, Acrobatic Sky 141 says, not the a-hole. As someone who struggles with infertility, I know where your wife is coming from. I felt like a failure as a woman and didn't want to talk about it with people. However, her mother brought it up and you simply responded. If your wife wanted you to back up her lie, she should have told you about it. Communication between the two of you in this situation is key. If she, and you, hasn't talked to a therapist about this, I highly recommend it. She didn't tell OP about it or give him a heads up because she didn't want to admit that she lied about him behind his back. While he's out there being supportive to her, she's made this into some contest for public approval and blamed him for her fertility issues. She definitely needs therapy. But I disagree that she made it a contest. She was ashamed that she can't perform the most important task a woman can. She likely feels like she is less of a woman, or that she must have done something to cause it. If she's religious, she might even feel as if she's offended God. It's more like she's a child at a sleepover that has wet the bed. She's embarrassed and trying to hide the soiled sheets or blame the person she was sharing a bed with. The problem I have with it is she said it was very personal and she felt awful that her mum knew. However, she didn't think it would be very personal for him or check with him before revealing health information to his mother-in-law. If he had been the one with problems, would she have said that it was her to protect him? Food for thought. I Choose You Snorlax says, your wife decided to lie to her mother. Instead of being honest about her issues, she blamed them on you. Then she doesn't tell you she lied about fertility issues to her mother. This is literally all her doing. The craziest part here is that her telling her mum about your totally fictitious reproductive issues is absolutely okay, yet you correcting her mother about her fertility issues isn't. Oh, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Sarcasm. She's living in a glass house throwing boulders and blaming you for the mess. Ridiculous, not the a-hole. Posted by user Throwaway2T24, titled, Am I the a-hole for calling my wife and mother-in-law ridiculous because they're still upset at me over something that happened on Christmas? I, male 35, have been married for 3 years. My wife, female 34, and I have 2 kids, male 5 and female 3. Just gonna hop right into it. Last Christmas, like every other one, my wife and I have a talk. It's really her telling me not to act like a child on Christmas morning. My in-laws spend a week with us and leave after New Year's, and mother-in-law always leaves with a complaint to my wife about my behavior. Here's what I do. I stay in my pajamas, and I sit on the floor with my kids and open presents with them. That's it. I don't see the issues with this, but my wife and mother-in-law has huge problems with it. My wife always pulls me to the side and it turns into an argument. She wants me to go upstairs and change into clothes and act like an adult. I don't see problems with me staying in my pajamas at 8 a.m. My mother-in-law came to visit today, and she asked me if I was ready to apologize for behaving like a fool on Christmas. This crap happened a month ago, and she wants me to apologize? My wife just told me to say that I'm sorry so it can be settled. I said she and her mother were being ridiculous, and they needed to get over it, as I'm not going to stop enjoying Christmas with my kids. My mother-in-law got offended and stormed out. My wife called me an a-hole for insulting them. She now wants me to say sorry for both incidents. I didn't even consider her words. My mother-in-law posted on Facebook about me insulting her, and I'm being harassed into apologizing. I feel foolish just writing about this. So now here I am. So Reddit, tell me, am I the a-hole? And edits to add, no, it's not inappropriate pajamas. I'm around my kids. It's a regular shirt and pajama pants. I'm not walking around in my skivvies, and I'm not in them all day. Usually till 10 in the morning, no later. Gonna keep this one short and say I don't see any issue with you staying in your pajamas. That's literally a non-issue. How is it an adult thing to be in clothes and out of your pajamas up to 10 in the morning? Or 8 in the morning? There is no issue here. I don't get what there is to be upset about. These two kind of just woke up today and chose violence and chose to be dicks. That's not your fault. There's nothing that you've done here that I can see as you being wrong. I'm losing my words because my brain is shutting down. I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, but this has destroyed my brain. OP, you are not the a-hole. Keep being a good dad. Thumbs up to you. Don't get what these two people's problems are. Go away, people. In the comments, Dizquab says, I, male 35, have been married for 3 years. I have 3 kids, M5, F3, and my wife, female 34. Not the a-hole 1,000 times. Signed, Jewish lady who loves Christmas morning in pajamas. Exactly. What's wrong with being in your jammies in your own home? My parents are almost 60, and guess what? They both hang around in the kitchen in their pajamas on a Sunday morning. Mainly because it's their own home, and they can damn well wear what they want in their own home. I think this is ridiculous. I'm guessing mother-in-law and wife have more formal expectations around guests, and mother-in-law considers herself a guest, but that isn't reasonable. Not the a-hole, absolutely. Pajamas are the best. Then mother-in-law should no longer be invited to be a guest in OP's home on Christmas morning. Problem solved. Gidung Geek says, not the a-hole. This is a very odd thing for your wife and mother-in-law to be angry about. You enjoy Christmas and enjoy the spark of joy it brings to your kids. Why the heck are they so irritated that you want to make it special with your family? What's the saying? We don't stop playing because we grow old because we stop playing. Haven't they noticed that family pajamas are a thing at Christmas? The question is, why aren't those two in their pajamas on Christmas morning? They're a pair of weirdos, not the a-hole. And Randy Leahy 212 says, not the a-hole, don't apologize for being a good dad. Posted by user NBA Jamsand, titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my stepmom she needs to move out in a few months? Hi everyone, this is not a legal question. I have already checked on this with a lawyer and through my school's legal department, and I'm legally fine. This is just a moral judgment. My dad married my stepmom 7 years ago. She's not a bad woman, and she's not a gold digger either. She and my dad are legitimately in love. However, my dad doesn't have much time left due to medical issues. He likely won't make it till summer. My dad and I weren't close. He was military, and if he wasn't gone, he was in a crappy mood. My mom was in the picture, but she wasn't a peach either. So I was raised by my grandparents in their home. Neither of my parents could tell you my birthday 3 years ago, just to give you an idea of it. I don't hate either of my parents, but I don't really recognize them as my parents either. My dad has been a much better dad to my stepmom's son, which is good, and I'm grateful for that. However, I don't feel a bond with my stepbrother or my stepmom either. When my grandma passed away, she left me her home in her will, as that was what my grandparents wanted. My dad and his wife moved in with my permission while I was away at school. It was no secret that I intended to move back and live alone in my home, which has caused some conflicts in the past. This past weekend, while I was studying, stepmom sent me an email filling me in on dad again, telling me about her COVID layoff and asking what my plans were after this last semester. So I told her I was returning home and had a job lined up by an old friend. Stepmom asked if I felt it would be crowded there, and I reminded her that it was my home, so if anyone was uncomfortable, they would need to relocate. Stepmom pushed back a little bit, and I reminded her again the home was mine, and that they needed to be ready to leave by summer's end, as this is my last semester, and I wanted to give them plenty of time to relocate. My dad ended up calling me later and tried to guilt me. However, I reminded him that he didn't really raise me, and I was under no obligation to help them as much as I already had. I called his wife after that, and told her that after my dad passed, she was gone for what she had just tried to do. The summer deal was off, and I would evict after 60 days, which is still more than required. I told her my dad chose a military career over his son, and when he wasn't lacing his boots, he was yelling at me or throwing stuff. Stepmom brought her child's education into it because they couldn't afford to live in a good school district when this was over, but I told her neither he or she was my concern. I told my friends about this, and they all thought that I was right because of what I've already done for them and what my dad did in the past. They have said the stepmom is just another person in the world, and it sucks for her, but you can't set yourself on fire to keep them warm. What do you guys think? Am I the a-hole? OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the a-hole. I think I could be the a-hole because they already have enough to deal with. I mean, I don't really agree that you would be the a-hole in this circumstance. You've given us more than enough reason in this post. You sound like a reasonable and logical person. They seem like they're just trying to scam another few years of easy, good housing out of you when you already agreed for enough time for them to be there. They accepted that deal when it was offered because you couldn't live in the house. You could have always rented it out to someone else, yet you still let them live there. They are bad people for trying to squeeze out more than they're allowed. Perhaps reneging on that summer deal and immediately giving them a 60-day eviction notice is a bit of a dick move to some people, but you know these people better than we do. You've given us a short summary, your dad is not the, best person in this world, and I don't blame you for doing what you've done. This is pretty mild as far as Am I the A-hole posts go, and I'm glad that we have a normal one to end this with. I think you've done the right thing. Morally, I think you're in the right. Morally, I think they're in the wrong. There's your judgment, not the a-hole. In the comments, Androgis Senior says, not the a-hole at all. You were so generous for even giving them 60 days, let alone let them live till summer. Let them live? Oh my god. He's gonna go murder them after the 60 days are up. I'm amazed by the entitlement of your father. It was your grandparents' choice to leave you the house, not your father. Stick to what you were doing and don't look back. They don't deserve you. I promise you if the house had gone to Dad, stepmom would have wound up with a house and OP would be the one looking for a place. Smart grandparents knew what they were doing. Stabby Crabs 83 says, not the a-hole, but I would not have gotten into this in the first place. Once someone's in your home, it's a lot harder to get them out. That and wear and tear. Anyway, they aren't your relations and have clearly got it in their head that the house is theirs and you have inconvenienced them by coming home. Good luck. Yeah, I shudder to think of the ways they might try to F OP over when they're feeling jaded before the eviction. And Under Umbrellas 1 says, not the a-hole. They knew your plans beforehand of returning back to your own home. They were staying at someone else's house, I assume rent-free. You had given them 6 months' notice to find a new place. You don't owe your dad or your stepmom. You deserve your own space and being surrounded by people who have supported you, especially during a hard time when your dad is sick. I'm sorry for what you're experiencing. Posted by user Purple Flavored Cherry. Titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to go buy food for anyone in my household anymore? So everyone eats my food. If there are leftovers or takeout, my dad and sister will pick it off until there's just a little bit left for me. If I buy food and keep it in the fridge until my mealtime, they'll ask each other if they can eat it. For example, I had a sandwich. I ate half of it and literally announced, I'm going to save this for dinner when I get back home. Everyone acknowledges what I said. So I come home and it's gone. I ask where it is. My ma said that my sister ate it. I ask her why she ate it. She said our ma told her she could. So I go back and ask our ma why she told my sister she could have it, and she says, oh, I didn't think you wanted it. So I start leaving notes on my food. Then it's, oops, sorry OP, I didn't see the note. Or, well, I was just so hungry, but there's blank in the fridge. It's not that our parents don't buy groceries either, but I work so much that by the time I can sit down and enjoy food, most of it's gone. It doesn't matter who bought the groceries. It's the same way even when I buy them. So now I'm refusing to pay for anyone's food, ever. I'm just so frustrated. I literally cried a little bit because I'm so tired of all the food being eaten. I'm so hungry. Think I have tasty food at home, and it's gone. All I've been eating lately are bologna sandwiches and 99-cent instant ramen. Of course, everyone in my family thinks I'm petty and immature. My sister is upset because she gets like $30 a week from her job, she's 15, and I get paid almost 10 times that. I don't think I'm being immature. This is the only way I can think of getting my point across. That all said, I would be lying if I said I didn't feel a tiny bit guilty. Am I the a-hole? Again, I can sympathize with why you feel guilty in this situation because, it's hard when everyone's yelling at you saying that you're in the wrong and that this should just be a normal expectation that they're going to be eating your food and you're the one with the problem here. It's hard to break out of that crazy cyclone of just psychopathy and craziness and gaslighting. I can sniff all this gas and it's lighting me up right now. Rest assured, I think you know in your heart of hearts that you're not the problem here. Just take it one day at a time. Be sane and be safe and sort yourself out in this situation. Maybe it's time to find other options to keep the food from them or other options to get yourself away from this family. I'm going to go with not the a-hole. And in the comments, Alyssa2579 says, not the a-hole. You should buy yourself a mini fridge to keep in your room. I was thinking the same thing, but getting a hinge to put on it so you can lock it up. Amazon is your friend. Look up refrigerator door lock with padlock, and you get a couple of inexpensive options. Empty Flounder says, not the a-hole. You haven't said how old you are, but can you afford to move out, buy yourself a fridge and put it in your room with a lock on it? Your family are being the petty, immature ones, and quite honestly, have no respect for you. Seriously, buy yourself, we call them bar fridges in Australia. See if you can get a lock for it and put it in your room. That way, at least your food, etc. won't go missing. And OP replies, I'm 21, and that is something I'm very seriously considering to buy. I guess I was just wondering if I was being equally immature or petty. Totally not immature or petty. They are not respecting you and playing dumb that they didn't know you wanted it. They really have not left you any options. Thank you for your comment, it really means a lot. Devious Cheesecake replies, hey, I just wanted to say, I know those feelings. That feeling of having a really long and really hard, that's what she said, day, and remembering you have something nice to eat, and a video or episode. For me, it was YouTube, Markee YouTube, don't forget to subscribe, to watch when you get home. So you can sit, eat, and chill. Then you get home and that food is gone. If you had known that it wouldn't be there, you would have just picked something up on the way home. But nope, now you're just tired and the emotions come flooding through because that was your thing to enjoy for the evening. I've been there. I've had literal tears over food, and it wasn't until the people that made me feel silly over it experienced the same thing did they understand it. I definitely owned a mini fridge all through college and uni for that very reason. I became very good at hiding food. Not the a-hole, by the way. And user Electronic Dealer 71 says, "Not the a-hole. I feel so bad for you right now. No one should have to be in this situation in which they can't even come home and enjoy the food that they bought for themselves with their own money. If this was like an occasional thing, that would be fine. However, this is recurring, so your reaction is expected. Although you were not the a-hole, be prepared for some backlash from your parents and sister. This might happen, and if you prepare for it now, it's probably better. Then again, most likely nothing will happen, so you're fine. Have a nice day, OP, and I hope you can eat your own food later." And OP replies, "Oh, my sister is already really annoying about it, because she's trying to save up for some full-body mirror or whatever, and my dad thinks I'm being childish about it. My ma feels bad that she forgets about it being my food, but it happens very frequently. When someone forgets that many times, it means they don't care. This, forgetting once is, I had something else on my mind and forgot. Forgetting multiple times means this wasn't important enough for me to make an effort to listen, remember, and care about it." And back to that original post, OP has some edits. Edit: "Thank you sincerely to everyone who took the time to respond. As annoyed and frustrated as I was also worried that I was being silly, immature, and overreacting. I will look into getting a small fridge to keep food in my room. Again, thank you. Edit 2, please stop suggesting that I spike my food or poison my family. Final edit, thank you to everyone who left messages and ideas on how to proceed with this. I don't think I can have a small refrigerator, but I do intend on getting a lockbox for the fridge and finding a hiding spot in my room for non-perishable snacks and such. It's embarrassing it has come to that, but I think you guys are right. Your comments have made me realize I have much deeper problems at hand than my family eating my food. My dad and my sister have entitlement issues, and my mother is an enabler by being so passive about it. I'm going to think of ways I can stand up for myself effectively. Thank you all for taking the time to leave support and advice, even though you didn't have to. It really does mean a lot to me." And now on to the update. Hello there. Since so many people were gracious enough to leave advice on how to handle this, I decided I'd give you guys an update. So I decided I wasn't going to get a mini fridge for my room, but I did get a little cage for the family fridge to keep my leftovers in. My ma thinks it's ridiculous, but accepts it. My dad, surprisingly to be honest, thought it was hilarious, and it made my sister really annoyed, because she thought I was overreacting. As for everything else, I went to Target and got a storage box to keep my snacks in and put it in a safe spot in my room. Many people's comments made me realize that my issue at hand was far bigger than my family eating my food. So at dinner, I talked to everyone at once about how I felt towards their food thievery. My ma was immediately regretful, and I do believe that she feels bad. She offered to immediately replace the food that was eaten, but I said it was okay. I don't want compensation, I just want it to stop. My dad, I'm not sure if he feels bad, but I did remind him that out of the two of them, I'm the only one that actually leaves the house and works on their feet. They work from home. So I think that I'm entitled to having my own food without worrying about it going anywhere. He seemed to have gotten the message. My sister didn't take it well. I'll spare the details, but it was a long and loud rant about how she doesn't eat that much of my food, and I was starting to annoy her. I don't eat as much quantity-wise as the rest of my family does. Apparently, her logic was that since I'm not currently eating it, it should be okay for her to eat it instead. My ma tried to help me explain my feelings to her, but she started yelling louder and stormed away. Her attitude is a different can of worms for another day. In the end, I am very confident that the situation has been worked out. I'm glad that I was able to successfully communicate to my parents about how I feel, and that I now have a system put in place where I can actually eat the food I buy without having to worry about someone else taking it. Thank you again to everyone who left advice and pointed out what the real problem actually was. In the comments, Nolan358 says, "Fantastic. Just be wary of your sister trying to tamper with what you leave in the fridge now just to be spiteful." Oh, definitely. I still have my eye on her. I'm more relieved that my dad seems to understand how I feel, though. I have one of those little fridge cages as well. Mine has a number code lock, non-digital. It was to prevent my younger brother from eating various things like the grated cheese, feta, and some other stuff that was bought for me to eat or to be used in dinners. It took some time to convince my mum to let me put the cage in the fridge, but it works pretty well. My sibling wasn't very amused either at first. I also told him that if he breaks it, he pays for a new one. It's become normal to see it in the fridge now, and my mom even sometimes asks for some of her stuff to be put in the fridge cage. Lime Rays says, "Food thievery in my childhood led to some very damaging eating habits that I'm still battling as an adult. My brother stole my food and candy a lot. My parents were genuinely trying and always made him spend his allowance to replace it and started locking up certain things. So I started overeating a lot, so it wasn't there for him to steal. Still a constant and ongoing battle with myself to not eat an entire package of candy or cookies or a whole pizza in one sitting. I drink a lot of water and chew on food that's safe but inedible things a lot to keep my mouth otherwise occupied when food anxiety kicks in. Honestly, me too. I've been unpacking this year, but I have food FOMO because I knew if I waited to eat my treat or dinner until I was actually hungry, my older brother would eat it, and I would get none. So now I eat even when I'm not hungry because I want to get my taste or my share of something before it disappears." And Father Son Holy Toast says, "That's wonderful, OP. I'm glad it all worked out. If I may ask, what did you say at dinner to your family to explain your feelings about their food thievery?" I said something along the lines of, "I feel like I need to talk about what happened the other night, my last straw. It's ridiculous that you, my dad, and sister ate 15 cookies in one day, and even more ridiculous when you, my sister, got mad at me because I wouldn't share the last 4 with you, especially when you know that I was the one who asked for them. If you wanted some, you should have asked. I feel like I'm being disregarded when I come home, and I found out my snacks and leftovers have been eaten. I'm the only one in this house who actually leaves the house to work on her feet. This might be my dad's house, and your fridge, but why can't you go out and get food for yourself instead of eating mine? Isn't that what you always say? That you'll always be my dad and I'll always be your child?" That's the comprehensive summary of what I said, because my sister kept trying to interrupt me. She told me that I was being immature for being upset about cookies. So I said, "It's not about just cookies. How many times have you eaten my leftovers that I brought for myself? How many frozen dinners or sandwich material have you eaten? It's fine if you want to have some, but can you at least ask me when I do? Did you even consider that I buy them for myself? Did you consider that maybe those were things I wanted to eat when I came home?" Again, that's just the gist of what I said. That's when she went on a spiel about how I don't actually eat my food, she doesn't even eat that much, and she should be allowed to eat it if I don't. My ma tried to remind her that once I bought healthy snacks for myself, and as soon as I took them out of the grocery bag, my sister opened the bag and poured out a bowl without even acknowledging at me. But then she got even more upset and left the dinner table. Sorry if that was confusing to follow. I'm mostly glad that my dad seemed to get the point. Wow, your sister actually said that you don't eat your food. The reason for the entire conversation is that you don't eat your food because they eat it. Kudos to your mum for pointing out what your sister did concerning your snacks. Kudos to you for having a rational discussion. Your sister has issues that are more than just the food. Seems as if there's a bigger issue which needs to be addressed if she cannot see how bad her behavior is, and then becomes angry when it's brought up in a rational discussion. Yeah, I'm not really sure what to do about it. She doesn't take criticism at all, and they make her feel like she's being personally attacked. This was probably a 4 to 5 on the scale if I had to rate her temper tantrums. Your sister has issues and appears to need some sort of counseling. You are not responsible for her behavior. Your parents need to address this and get to the root of her aggression. If not, then they just need to discipline her and really make the discipline stick. She cannot go through life like this. Others will not put up with her behavior. Posted by user, Am I the A-hole throw? Titled, Am I the A-hole for outing my younger sister to my older sister? I'm not sure if there will be formatting issues as I'm on mobile. So I, 18 female, recently heard a very similar story on here where the OP got the A-hole verdict, so I kind of accepted that I'm the A-hole as well. However, I told my boyfriend about this, and he says that I'm not the A-hole. Well, I have 5 siblings. My older sister, 24 female, is getting married soon. Pandemic restrictions have been lifted in my area, and everyone that's coming needs to be tested. Mostly everyone is happy for my sister, except for my younger sister, who is almost 14. All she talks about is her. What cake flavor she likes, what dress she thinks bridesmaids should wear, what themes she wants. And since she's the second youngest, no one reminds her that it's not her wedding. Well, about 2 weeks ago, she told me her master plan to come out as a lesbian at her sister's wedding and have her cousin film it for TikTok. She planned on raising her hand when they asked for objections and come out to everyone. I kept telling her not to, but she says that I'm homophobic. I tried for a whole week to convince her not to, but then I decided to tell my older sister about her plans. She tried to speak to younger sister, but younger sister was pissed that I outed her and said that she will also tell everyone about both of our homophobia. My older sister decided that she couldn't come to the wedding. Now we're trying to figure out how to tell my mom without outing her again. So am I the a-hole for telling my sister about my younger sister's plans? And would I be the a-hole if I told my mum why my younger sister is no longer invited? Edit 1. Please don't say mean things about my little sister. Everyone in my family is adopted, including my parents, and older sister and I are the only ones who haven't been through trauma. We were both adopted from India when we were babies. My sister was in foster care until she was 9 and has been through a lot. She was almost drowned by her bio mum, shot by a cop for her race, and separated from her bio siblings, and so I don't want you guys thinking she's some spoiled brat. Someone mentioned that her normal meter is probably messed up, and that's true. She has a harder time understanding what's normal and what isn't. She's been in therapy since she's lived with us. Whoa, okay, I was gonna say that she sounds entitled and kind of disillusioned with things, doing that at a wedding. I guess her normal meter, being through all of that, really is off. And that would be very traumatizing, like, my god. I'm gonna go with a not the a-hole here, going soft on that one. I'm gonna say she still has to have accountability for her actions and realize that doing that at a wedding, objecting to come out as gay, to also be put on TikTok. There's a lot of things you shouldn't be doing here. There's a big list of things we shouldn't be doing. It's not right to do that, and yes, you've been through a lot and your normal meter is messed up because of these things. It's still not a good thing to do, and now is the time to realize, hey, it would be fine to out her for that because it puts her normal meter back on the straight and narrow. That's a lot of information in the edit that should have been in the original post. So, not the a-hole. Oh my god. Now, in the comments, a lot of these people wouldn't have read this edit, so they're going to be giving their initial opinion. We'll send you a postcard says, not the a-hole. Younger sister sounds like one though. Seems like she just wants an audience and will use older sister's wedding for it. Also, younger sister needs to know what homophobia actually means. OP, if your older sister wants to invite the younger sister, I recommend her just asking the pastor, or the equivalent, to take out the who objects part of the speech. That way, the sister will not be expecting that part to be taken out and probably won't be able to come out dramatically. I've never understood why that part was included in a wedding ceremony anyway. What the hell? Why would you give anyone a chance to screw up your wedding? I'm sure there's some historical reason, but I just don't get it. The historical context was it took a long-ass time for news to travel way back when, so the raising objections part was a chance for parties to raise issues like that one of the parties was still illegally married to someone else or was wanted by the law. Or if someone there knew that the bride and groom were related, due to some previous generation shenanigans. Or one of the parties was a rogue priest or nun who hadn't officially recanted their vows, or one of them had been injured in such a way that they'd be incapable of having children and had concealed it from their partner. In short, actual legal challenges to the legitimacy of the marriage, not rom-com nonsense and certainly not what OP's little sister would want to use it for. Most officiants these days would just roll their eyes. And Zaru77 says, not the a-hole one bit. Your younger sister needs to learn that 1. Not everything is about her, 2. There is a time and a place for everything, and 3. It's not because you don't want her coming out at a specific time. That was for your older sister's wedding that you're homophobic, whatever that sentence means. I would have given your little sister a pass if she was really young, but the girl is 14. I'm 15. I know a lot of other 15-year-olds. None of us would ever make a wedding about ourselves, just basic courtesy. Your sister needs to grow a pair. Forgotten Realm says, I generally say that outing someone's sexuality automatically makes you the a-hole, but this is kind of a different situation. As a homosexual myself, I understand wholeheartedly about being comfortable with who you are, and taking pride in being out and open about your sexuality. But there's a time and place when it's appropriate to come out, and at someone else's wedding is absolutely not the place. Your younger sister needed a wake-up call and to realize that a wedding is not the right time or place to do such a thing. You had all the right intentions to let your older sister know what your younger sister planned to do, so not the a-hole. As for telling your mother why younger sister is uninvited, I would just say she's not invited. If she asks why, I would just say something along the lines of, younger sister planned on causing a scene to draw attention to her and away from the bride and groom. Outing her to your mum would make you the a-hole though. And now on to the update. So we decided to have a family coming out party, while older sis was away on her honeymoon. We had a great time, and it was nice to bond with the family. Then the wedding. Older sister and her significant other decided to leave out the objections part. It was actually kind of funny to see my little sister's face when that happened. Other than that, the wedding was awesome, good food, nice dancing, at a beach. Well, now my younger sister has a girlfriend. After a little while, I showed her this thread, and she was really upset looking at all the responses. Not in a mad way, more in a confused way. She didn't realize, and has always struggled with how her actions may come across to someone besides herself. Also, please stop trying to diagnose my sister. She is not a sociopath. You really heard one story about one instance from a person's life, and are ready to make a full diagnosis. Ugh, that annoyed me. However, thank you all for all your replies to my last post. They meant so much. Now in the comments, of the C95 says, wonderful update, and I have to ask, Did she know she was having a coming out party, or did she still plan to come out at the wedding? What face did she make when she realized there would be no objections bit? She did know about the party, and she just looked kinda confused. Starkov says, she's a young girl. Of course she isn't a sociopath. She's 14, and let's be honest, what 14-year-old, male, female, whatever you identify as, isn't thinking mostly about themselves? And I'm not trying to be an a-hole towards her, honestly, just stating that I'm glad it all worked out, and I'm glad y'all worked everything else out. Congratulations to your older sister on her marriage. This is a better resolution than I honestly thought when I first read your post. Happy to hear that you guys got a peaceful resolution. This was a way to support everyone in their own way and didn't piss anyone off, I think. And Cautious Actuator 432 says, not the a-hole, but why didn't you wait until your sister came back from the wedding to have the coming out party, unless I missed something? I'd assume it's so the sister wouldn't still make a scene and come out at the wedding. Posted by user Captain Jack is a fart face. Titled, Would I be the a-hole for sending neighbor a cease and desist letter? So last fall we moved into a new house, and less than 2 weeks later had a baby. We were pretty focused on the whole parenting thing, and failed to notice how often the neighbor on one side was using our property for several things without any kind of permission or discussion. It started with his kids spending their days in our driveway drawing with sidewalk chalk. We had to ask them to stop because we seriously feared running them over when backing out of the garage, as they have absolutely no supervision or regard for cars. They stopped drawing and started using our garage door as a bumper stop while riding their scooters and bikes. They physically bashed into the garage door and dented it. I asked them to stop. After a dozen or so instances, they finally stopped. In the spring, we noticed that the dad was parking his trailer on our side of the property between our two driveways. The property line is very clear with fences and different types of landscaping. In addition, he was pulling his garbage cans through our gravel and making huge tracks. As we're in the middle of a pandemic and we have a baby, we decided to write a note and leave it with our information while also lining the property line with large rocks. Never heard from them, but they had moved the rocks into a pile on the front side of our property. We moved the rocks back again and thought we had made our position very clear. At the beginning of June, the dad and husband came and rang our door. He proceeded to tell us that because he's parked his trailer like that since he moved in, and no one has cared before, so we can't care either. At no point did he ask if he could park on our side or use our property. He said, "It's never been a problem and I should be able to do it." We politely said we did not give him permission to do so, and explained that we intended to landscape the area, and his trailer and use of our property would ruin the landscaping we had planned. The entire conversation was difficult because he spoke over me the entire time and talked to me like a child. At the end of the confrontation, he said we were rude neighbors and stormed off. Since then, he parks further over, moves our landscaping rocks constantly, and aggressively moves his garbage cans through the gravel, leaving marks like he was zigzagging back and forth. This weekend, I started taking photos as proof of his parking and the way he's ruining our gravel with his garbage cans. He came out and glared at me. I, very nicely, again, asked him to stop. He replied, "Why?" And when I said because it's my property and we've asked him not to, he replied, "Whatever," and walked away. Now we come to today. I'm done. I am so frustrated that this guy feels like he's entitled to unquestioned use of property that is not his. TLDR, neighbor with free-range children uses, parks, and ruins my property without permission and will not stop even when asked. Would I be the a-hole for sending a cease and desist? Not really. It does sound like you've given him fair warning with every opportunity you've done, and you've been nothing but kind to his face. I don't think he has the right to be mad if you do issue him with a cease and desist. I feel like a lot of people would have done that 10 years ago. And I'm also surprised that the previous owners of the property allowed him to park his trailer like that. Just because they did doesn't mean you should. That's common sense. The free-range kids are also a potential liability there because they're going to get hurt, and that's how they're going to learn from their mistakes. And if they're going to get hurt, you don't want you to be the one teaching them those lessons. If I were you, I would stay as far away from them as possible and let that be somebody else's problem to deal with. Go right ahead with the cease and desist. I support this motion, not the a-hole. Now in the comments, the Cookie Monster says, "Not the a-hole. Sounds like you've exhausted your options up until this point. But what will the cease and desist letter accomplish? Will you have it notarized and mail it with a signature required to prove he received it? What will the consequence be if he persists? Aside from pictures, you should put up a camera. If he causes any real damage, then you're going to want it on film of him doing it. Can you put in a more permanent solution like cemented in posts instead of the rocks? Short of them moving, I'm not sure you'll ever be at peace as long as they're your neighbors." OP says, "I hit the character count, so I removed my info about how we had landscapers come and give us a quote and plan for hedges, but they can't plant until spring and want us to make sure he just won't run them over once planted. We very much intend to put up a barrier. Put cameras up yesterday. He's already let his kids damage your property, garage door, and I'd bet any landscaping you put in he would destroy. If it's on tape, you can sue to force him to replace it. You can also have him officially trespassed from your property if you have footage of him or the kids entering without permission, which can come with a hefty legal slap if he continues to violate it." Lady Rainicorn says, "Not the a-hole. He sounds as though he has no respect or regard for you or your property and hasn't listened when you have approached him about it several times. Sounds like it's gone on far too long, and you have every right to begin to take further action." Let's Do It says, "Not the a-hole. Get some legal advice and do everything by the book. He's a dick, he's trespassing, his kids trespass. They're going to destroy your property, landscaping, etc. You said people have called you petty for this. Nope. Petty would be getting some tire spikes and putting them on the property, but hidden so he'll always get flat tires when he trespasses." And Pedestrian Tony says, "Not the a-hole, I'd cross-post this to r/legal advice." And OP replies, "Thank you. I posted there about a week ago and got some great ideas. I want to send the letter as a hey, I'm actually serious about this gesture before getting scorched earth and getting the trailer towed and him trespassed from the property. I'm willing to go there eventually, but I'm hoping if he realizes he can't just walk all over me, he'll stop. Unlikely, but worth a try." And now onto the update. It's a very happy update. I drafted the letter with some legal assistance. Prior to sending it, I wanted to ensure I had proper cameras in the event he decided to make things worse. When I installed the camera, the neighbor must have realized why it was installed because they stopped doing all the annoying stuff. Then, about a month later, they listed their house for sale. They moved out and we don't have to deal with their entitled a-hole attitude anymore. I appreciate all the assistance and support as I was really unsure if I was going in the right direction. And edits, I want to clarify, I do not believe that the neighbor moved because of anything I did or asked him to stop doing. I think he had been planning to move for some time and was just an absolute dick of a person. They didn't move because of me, and even if they did, they sold the house for $200,000 more than they bought it 3 years ago, so he's not some victim. I do appreciate all the kind words. I am also bummed that so many people have crappy neighbors as well." Haploid Life says, "Isn't that an amazing feeling? We had a horrible neighbor when we moved into a place years ago. He threatened to shoot our dog, not because it was barking, but because we were playing darts with friends with our garage open and we were playing music. Not even loudly, at 7 p.m. He called the cops on us. They shrugged and said we weren't doing anything wrong, so then this guy threatens to shoot the dog. When he sold his place a couple of months later, I was so relieved." Great update. People who demand favors are my favorite. I used to rent an apartment that had a driveway. There was a condo being built next door, and the contractors decided that they would just park in front of our driveway. One particularly dickish contractor refused to move when we told him to. He said that because the other neighbor said he could block their driveway, we had to let him do it too. He said he would only move to let us in or out of our driveway. We called the cops repeatedly. They didn't ticket him though, and so he kept doing it. We called the tow truck, but they can't tow without a ticket on the vehicle in our city. So eventually I had had enough. I told him he had 5 minutes to move his truck or he was going to regret it. Then after 5 minutes was up, I dumped an entire litter box of dirty kidder litter all over his windshield and the hood of his truck. He never parked there again. Especially gross, and I love it. Thanks. I went full Philly chick on his ass. At one point after I dumped the litter box, I looked him dead in the face and said, "You don't want to park here anymore. A crazy person lives here." Did I mention I was 5 months pregnant at the time? Don't piss off a pregnant woman or a Philly chick, and definitely don't piss off a pregnant Philly chick. And Oxgon says, I had some crappy neighbors also. This year, they weren't being as crappy during the summer, and I was wondering if it was because of lockdown. This guy was a huge Trump supporter and probably wouldn't have taken any of the suggestions for small gatherings. He had parties often. All summer I had the backyard to me. Very weird. Decided to look him up on Facebook and he died of COVID. So that happened. Life, finds a way. Posted by user Pink Lioness. Titled, Would I be the a-hole if I didn't give my parents a year of public relationship with my fiancé? Let me start this out by defining public. We, 24 female and 27 male, are public. Anyone I care about knows about our relationship. The only people we aren't very public with is my family. So by public, I mean being open with my family. Important to know that we're an interracial couple. I'm white, he's black. Now let me explain why we haven't been public. We met in high school, I was a freshman and he was a senior. I had a huge crush on him. We texted and flirted, but nothing really happened. He lived in a large foster family home, so no dates allowed. My parents told me he was too old. They told me I was not allowed to speak with him until I was 18, and my dad told him never to contact me again. When I left for college, we started chatting again and had our first date. I told my mum we were talking. She said to only date people with nuclear families and did not talk to him till I was 21. When I corrected her and said it was 18, she told me she was going to drag me home by my hair. In my second year of college, we made it official that we were dating. I texted my mum before Thanksgiving break that I wanted them to meet him. She harassed me about whether I was pregnant and refused to meet him. I told her in a crowded restaurant we officially were dating, and she got mad at me for hiding things. Over the course of the next couple years, every time he got brought up, I could visibly watch her demeanor change. When I tried talking about him in front of my family, my dad told me that they weren't ready. I eventually just stopped talking about him to them. Eventually, my aunt saw his profile picture of us on Facebook and figured it out. My mum said she assumed we broke up because I wasn't talking about him. Now I'm moving, he's coming with me, and we want to get married after 5 years together. We both have our masters, and I'm starting on my PhD. My dad told me that my fiancé and I haven't done good at being open about our relationship. When I mentioned how mum threatened me, his only response was, I didn't say there weren't reasons. He suggested that I give them a year of an open relationship in order to let the bad guys act like the bad guys. I tried, they resisted, I stopped. I wanted my best friend with me when I take this huge step in life. My mum and her family's position on interracial relationships and racism are quite clear-cut and explicit. I'm not exposing him to that, and I don't want to experience it. But is that insensitive? Would I be the a-hole for not entertaining the idea of giving them a chance to get used to our relationship before we get married? Why would you have to postpone your marriage just so that your family can get used to you guys being a married couple when you've spent most of this time not interacting with them, and you probably won't continue to interact with them much because of their past actions? This really just does not make any sense to me. There's no logical or reasonable explanation for them wanting you to open up the relationship like that. These guys sound like toxic pieces of garbage, and no, you should not entertain their ideas. I'm gonna go with a not the a-hole, get married anyway, continue as you are. Prism of the Mind says, not the a-hole. That's a ridiculous request in my opinion. It's your relationship, not theirs. They had several chances to get used to the relationship. They just refused them. Seconding this. You've been interested in this guy for 10 years, and telling your parents about him for 10 years. That is more than enough time for them to sort out whatever internal idiocy they're working through. They have shown you time and time again they care about other things more than they care about your happiness. They are the a-holes. If they have children, I feel like they could be exposed to so much racism. Edit, I say if she loves this guy, live your life. Don't count on your family. Make your own. Holy Terrain says, not the a-hole, your family is racist, full stop. There is no need to give your parents a year of your relationship being public. They'll likely use this year to come between you and your fiancé. They will continue to be racist and negative throughout the wedding planning process and your marriage. Shield your partner from them as much as you can. As a black girl who dates a lot of white men, I know how painful it is to know your partner's family feels disdainful towards you just for being black. From what little information you've provided, you and your future husband sound like you have a solid relationship. Don't give your family the opportunity to interfere. And OP replies, you're very right. Based on their history, it's not going to go well, and he will end up getting hurt. I would never want to expose him to racism just to earn the right to get married, which probably wouldn't happen anyways. I'm sure he would put up a strong front for you, but don't put him through that. It hurts, it's hard, and he shouldn't have to. And someone else replies to OP's comment there, you're right, of course, but what is your plan? Your fiancé is marrying into a family of racists, presumably he is well aware of that. And you, what, plan to cut them out of your life? That wouldn't be undeserved, but it also doesn't sound like your plan. And OP replies, right now the plan is to find a damn therapist after all this. But honestly, low contact at the minimum. No Christmas with my mum's family for sure. I'm currently planning a 3-page text to send to my dad tomorrow while he's at work, telling him why I'm rejecting his compromise. And yes, he is aware. I don't hide these things from him. I haven't exposed him to the racism, but he knows how they act. And OPKC says, not the a-hole. Let the bad guys act like bad guys? What the hell is that supposed to mean? Does your dad want you to spend a year letting people treat you like crap before you've earned the right to get married? Well, hell, yeah, I guess it does. This one kinda hurts. My dad wants us to go through the ringer to prove ourselves. Doesn't that sound abusive to you? You deserve to suffer to prove yourself when he's the one providing all the approval, the punishment, and the tests? You have proved yourself by having a successful, respectful, long-term relationship, and your father has proved himself to be a vile, manipulative racist. I just don't get the value they add to your life with their racism casting a major shadow on every interaction. I wouldn't be complying. I would be reconsidering the point of even keeping them in my life. And OP adds an update in that post, saying, Update. I would like to thank you all for your perspective and advice. I wasn't expecting it to get this blown up. I learned some hard truths and I appreciate that. I can't respond to everyone, but do know I read your comments. I texted my dad this morning, letting him know that I wasn't going to put up or expose my fiancé to bigotry and racism. I told him I wanted a healthy relationship with them, but this wasn't how it's going to happen. I am currently looking into getting teletherapy to help me sort through some deep-rooted issues. I would like to end things on a happy note. My fiancé and I are very excited for our move. We are going somewhere cold and snowy, which we love. Our cat son and dog daughter are coming. We hope they will also like the changing climate, despite the 12-hour drive they're currently and blissfully unaware of. Again, thank you all for your perspective. I will likely have an update in the future. And now on to said update. I wish I had a better update. I also wanted to say thank you to those that commented. I got a lot of encouragement and truth, and I am seeing a therapist. A few days after the post, I told both my parents that we needed to talk about my fiancé before I moved 10 hours away. They wanted a Zoom call, but I insisted on a phone call because I didn't want to have to communicate with them and be trying to read their facial expressions. The conversation went really badly. I had said I was tired of being expected to just feed them information when they never asked about my life. It was long silences and being told I was avoiding them when I asked them what they wanted to know about my life. Honestly, I really broke down after the conversation. On top of all the stress of moving and the pandemic, I just couldn't take it. My parents were still refusing to acknowledge anything we had talked about. My fiancé was as supportive as you could have asked a partner to be during all of this, but I was just really struggling. My sleeping schedule completely reversed, in which I was up all night having anxiety attacks and sleeping during the day. At my lowest, I was sitting in my car, eating breakfast, and straight up sobbing. I finally called my dad that morning, where he apologized and promised to do better. We had a really constructive conversation. I just wish he had stuck to it. My parents actually finally met him as we moved. We made a pit stop in my hometown since it was on the way, so I could see them and my two best friends before leaving. My dad was polite and friendly. My mom was dead quiet. Moving was stressful, as expected, but we're happy and almost settled in. We haven't gotten married yet. With the corona cases on the rise, we've been trying to be extra careful. We plan on just a simple courthouse marriage when we get the chance. This is very much to my parents' dismay, since I was raised in a conservative Christian home. Otherwise, my parents have completely reverted to their behavior before my original post. Not talking about it, not asking about my life, nothing. They continue to talk about me behind my back, and my dad straight up lied to his sister about how I have a roommate. I'm focusing on my family. I have someone in my life who is genuinely proud of me and interested in my life and happiness. I have a dog and a cat, and now have a kitten that I love with my whole entire heart. We have worked and created a life full of unconditional love. I do grieve for a healthy relationship with my parents, but I'm working on recognizing that I can't depend on a change in their behavior for my own well-being. End edit. Just for clarification, I am currently in minimum contact with my parents, meaning there's basic acknowledgement of occasional texts, and that's it. I give them the minimum to stay in contact with my younger sister. My fiancé has absolutely zero contact and exposure to them, and the only reason they met on the way out of town was so that I could grab some identification documents they had been hesitant to give me. User Just a Reader says, only one thing to do. They won't respect your wishes, so you don't have to respect theirs. Go no contact. You don't need the stress in your life. Also, for future reference, if you do have children, do not allow them to engage and come back into your life. They weren't supportive for 10 years through your relationship, and they will only bring misery and stress afterwards. Nobody deserves that, and you do not owe them a goddamn thing. OP replies, I'm not no contact yet, but minimal. My mum basically just texts me good morning occasionally, still doesn't care about anything, doesn't even ask how school is going for me. I give them the minimum so I can stay in contact with my younger sister, as she still lives with them. I definitely don't plan on letting them have any contact with any potential future kids. When I think about exposing them to the things I experienced growing up, and even now as an adult, it infuriates me. No kid deserves that. My mum exposed us to her abusive mother. She once held my sister and I hostage in her house for a week, and it's a nasty cycle that I'm more than happy to break. I have biracial children, and a lot of my family is racist. Protect your kids from that. They will never change who they fundamentally are, and the world is bad enough without family making it worse. It is your responsibility as the white person in this relationship to be actively anti-racist. Your partner doesn't deserve to be exposed to that, and if you have children, they also don't deserve to be exposed to that. It is your job to put them first, and acknowledge that the deep, generational wounds of racism don't vanish by your horrible parents playing nice just to see their grandkids. Based on their unwillingness to change, no contact should be the only answer here. Noelle Frostmas says, "It really pisses me off that some Christians use their faith to be racist. What they forget is that Jesus wasn't white. He was from the Middle East. He was just westernized. I really don't understand how people don't get that." And OP replies, "My parents in the church are why I'm no longer religious. I have no problem with the teachings of Jesus, and in fact try to live by some of them, like love people as your neighbor. But the bigotry and judgment that comes from westernized Christianity is something I just can't stand. I'll admit I take a bit of a twisted satisfaction in the thought that most Christians I know would hate Jesus if they met him as a person. As a multiracial child that grew up with my dad's racist family, I'm very much hoping that any possible future children won't be exposed to them. They'll give them complexes they'll be battling their entire lives. I'm glad you two are so supportive of each other." And Electric29 says, "What struck me about the original post was not so much their racism as their arrogance that their way was the only way, and your mum saying she would physically abuse you, dragging you home by the hair, after you were a legal adult if you didn't follow her orders. That is scary. Run far away. You were better off, and I hope you will be very happy." And OP replies, "My mum is definitely someone who sees her worth connected to her child's actions. She once told me her friend must be so embarrassed because her son and his fiancée went on vacation alone. Well, joke's on her, her daughter lives with her fiancé. Sorry, it's Friday and I'm tired and sassy. But yes, after she said that, I got a job and started working to be financially independent from her as soon as I could, and now I am." Posted by user Waste Section 1071. Titled, "Am I the a-hole for fixing my mother-in-law's dress so she could wear it to sister-in-law's wedding?" I love my mother-in-law. She can be kind of annoying and difficult, more in a socially awkward way, but I chose to let it go. Sister-in-law, my husband's brother's wife, is a bit more neurotic and controlling when me and they clash. I find sister-in-law very uptight and try to avoid her, which doesn't really work because she can't stand when someone doesn't like her. Anyway, they got married recently, and mother-in-law wore lilac, not white. Frickin' lilac. But sister-in-law was upset because she thought it was too light. Mother-in-law and I were invited to get ready with the bridal party, and I heard sister-in-law complaining about the dress being too light for the mother of the groom. I told her that if it was white, I would be on her side, but mother-in-law looked fine. Well, sister-in-law accidentally spilled coffee all over the skirt. I don't believe her for a moment that it was accidental. She even smirked when she apologized. Leading up to the wedding, she had made comments about how her mother-in-law should dress more like her mum, who was probably 10 to 15 years older than mother-in-law and at least 100 pounds heavier. I don't think mother-in-law has to look frumpy just because she has adult sons. Sister-in-law had a spare dress, probably because the coffee was premeditated, and she seemed so proud of herself for trying to force mother-in-law into a frumpy and very cheap-looking dress. Sister-in-law doesn't know this, but my mum was a seamstress, and I worked for her all through high school. We had enough time before the wedding for me to run to a store and to get supplies, so I took mother-in-law in the bathroom, cut the damaged part of the dress, and fixed it. Sister-in-law was furious when we came out. So mother-in-law ended up wearing the too light colour, but now it was even shorter, and probably too sexy for the mother of the groom and sister-in-law's opinion. I didn't think anything of it, and we had a great night. Sister-in-law confronted me recently and said that was a catty thing to do. It put a damper on her night, and I should have supported her because she was the bride and lilac is some grievous sin. And I know it may be redundant, but OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the a-hole. I knew sister-in-law didn't want her to wear the dress, and sister-in-law claims it really put a damper on the night. Now for me personally, I'm going to take a bit more of an against the grain approach for this one, and I'm going to go with everyone sucks here. I know someone like Mark Narrations might go with a not the a-hole because that's more of an obvious one. But I feel like sister-in-law has an argument to be made here, and it's sister-in-law's wedding. And from my limited knowledge of weddings, I'm pretty sure the bride gets a say in the mother's dress? I'm not sure, I skimmed some comments and I got that information. What we're also missing from this one as well as that is just how brightly coloured the dress was. And I think a missing part of this is communication wasn't really involved all too much here. Or sister-in-law did communicate with you guys and you didn't offer a reasonable solution and you tried to, slam your choice regardless of what she wanted at her own wedding. My guess is this colour of dress was very close to white and it would have been outstanding in the wedding. And I'm not one to rock the boat like that, I wouldn't want to outshine the one getting married. It seems in this case, sister-in-law has taken it a step further and maliciously dumped coffee. That makes her an a-hole in this situation. Instead of sitting down, coming to a reasonable decision together, you guys took it one way, she took it another, you guys retaliated by fixing the dress. I think this is catfighting all round and I think it's uncalled for. Obviously, people are welcome to have their own judgments on this one. I think there's a very good argument to be made for not the a-hole in this situation. And I agree with people that go with not the a-hole, but I feel like there are details being left out in this situation by OP, and I don't completely buy their story. Especially, hey, in that redundant part, I knew sister-in-law didn't want her to wear the dress. You went against the wishes of the bride, and the bride doesn't always get to decide what you wear. Kind of a dick move to do what you did, though. So with that waffle out of the way, I'm going with everyone sucks here. Sin Count says in the comments, not the a-hole. It's so nice to see a story with a nice mother-in-law. Your sister-in-law should count her blessings. We see enough stories of the mother-in-law in actual white. Lilac is really okay. Isn't lilac kind of a classic mother of the bride groom colour? I feel like lilac and navy make up like 75% of mother of dresses. Sister-in-law is nuts. Pastels in general are super common. I think my aunt's MOB dress was a light gold colour for my cousin's wedding. My mum got a few comments for wearing a bright raspberry coloured dress to my brother's wedding, and a striking emerald green dress to my wedding. I'm sure those busybodies would have preferred her dressed in something more subdued, like lilac lol. Actually, I'm pretty sure my brother's mother-in-law wore lilac or ice purple. Regardless, my mum looked stunning at both weddings, and the brides and grooms involved were all happy with her outfit choices. Some people need to get over themselves. Crafty All the Time says, go sewing skills. As a crafter who sews a lot, you are a hero who shows what a pair of scissors, pins, needle, and thread can do against the evil of bridezillas and spiteful people in general. Not the a-hole. Put lilac fabric next to white fabric, and there's no way they can be confused. User Buy More Plants says, everyone sucks here. Typically the bride gets approval of the mother's dresses, and if she thought it was too light, it'd be nice to respect that for one single day. She absolutely should not have spilled coffee on your mother-in-law. But it's pretty clear neither of you like her very much, so I don't think it's a huge reach that you both may have been trying to antagonize her a little bit. Thank you. I agree that everyone in this situation sucks. It's pretty obvious that OP doesn't like her sister-in-law, and she was more than happy to upset her on her wedding day, which is just a crappy way to be. Mother-in-law knows that sister-in-law is picky, and if she was given warning ahead of time that sister-in-law did not want her wearing that dress, then she should have found something else to wear. Sister-in-law really shouldn't have spilled the coffee on purpose if the dress truly was generally wedding appropriate, even if she didn't like it. But then you see people openly suggest spilling wine or coffee on disrespectful people that wear dresses specifically requested against all the time on this sub. Iria Sori says, "Quick edit, I read through almost all the comments and I don't think people realize how light of a purple lilac is and are probably confusing it with lavender. Lilac is a very light purple, whereas lavender is just a lighter purple. A lavender dress, depending on the fabric, would look way more purple than a lilac one. I'm a bit shocked how far I had to scroll to find an everyone sucks here. I've seen so many posts on Reddit about spilling drinks on light dresses worn by people other than the bride. It really seems like it could go both ways here. I actually have a lilac dress that I wore to an event, not a wedding, and so many people told me it looked light grey or even white. I had actually been planning to wear it to a wedding since it looked purple to me, but decided against it so I wouldn't be that person. I also think it's weird that the bride didn't know what the dress looked like ahead of time, so I wonder if there's much more to this story that would have made people lean towards the bride's side. Yeah, it was extremely rude for her to spill coffee on the dress, but if she felt insulted by what she thought was too light a dress on her wedding day, maybe her emotions took over." Posted by user, Am I the A-hole hustling X? Titled, Am I the a-hole for encouraging my sister to make my ex pay her for information about me and my pregnancy? When I told my ex I was pregnant, he completely shut down and was pretty cold towards me. We were living in a different country to my own at the time in the middle of lockdown, so it was awful. He left a week after I told him, but told me to wait there for him to come back and had his staff keep an eye on me, i.e., stalk me and tell him every little thing that I was doing. I tried to contact him multiple times, but he ghosted me. The only time he contacted me was when I finally got fed up waiting for him and found a flight that would let me go back home, and that was to tell me that I was behaving like a child, and he expected me to still be there when he got back. I'm living with my sister ever since. I'm 7 months pregnant, so the baby will be here soon. As soon as I got back and my ex figured out I was staying with my sister, he didn't try to contact me, but instead started asking her for information about me and the baby. My sister thinks I should talk to him because being a single parent is hard. She would know she was one, and so was keeping him updated in the hopes that it would smooth things over between us. I told her not to tell him anything unless he pays her for the information. My sister didn't want to do it, but eventually agreed to inform him the information was no longer free. There was some negotiations, but he agreed to pay her £100 per update. Here is why I think I might be the a-hole. I've started telling my sister small, stupid things so she can give him updates regularly, just so he has to waste more money. The only reason I feel like I might not be one is that he didn't reach out to me directly when he easily could have. Am I the a-hole? And OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the a-hole. The making him pay for the information was my idea in the first place. Also, I've started telling my sister small stupid things so she can give him updates regularly just so he has to waste more money. I can see arguments for everyone sucks here in this one. You'd be like, you're technically extorting him for money and that's not right, but he refused to talk to you in the first place and he ghosted you and you had to move countries before he started caring, and he was kind of just harvesting information from you, from his staff. He has staff? Man is loaded. How many people you know have staff? To me, this kind of sounds more in the realm of sugar baby situation, where he knocked this woman up and sounds like he doesn't really want the child and he doesn't want a relationship with OP. I don't know, this is a really messy situation, and I see that OP kind of sucks in this situation, but I feel like it's justified. She kind of just got abandoned by this guy, and I wouldn't blame her for going completely no contact. At least this way, she's giving him some contact. I've got to go with not the a-hole for this one, even though there is an argument for everyone sucks here. In the comments, Kat Lur says, "Everyone sucks here. I fully understand why you chose to leave him and think that was probably the right choice, but the financial extortion isn't a good idea, and in my opinion, is likely to backfire. I think you need to talk to a family law attorney in your country ASAP to find out if your ex has a chance of pursuing shared custody or visitation rights, and you need to be honest about you and your sister essentially blackmailing him. Countries have weird laws, and if he can convince a judge based on laws where you live that you've committed a crime, it may very much work against you, or your attorney could end up reassuring you that a judge would look at his dumbass voluntarily gifting his money and determine that he's no threat at all. Either way, you really need to be crystal clear on how you're going to proceed with legal custody of your child now, before he or she arrives. It's not extortion. He could get the info from the source for free. He chose to be an abusive dick and talk to anyone around OP for the information. If it was OP giving info and asking for money, then yeah, that would be wrong. But this guy has decided giving hundreds of dollars to the sister is better than having a conversation with a woman he's still trying to control. She should absolutely speak to a lawyer to make sure she's not going to get into legal trouble. You're right, laws are weird. But I don't think she's an a-hole in any way, not the a-hole. Not the a-hole, but husband is like, raining, leave him for your own safety flags on you. Fill up on tacos says, not the a-hole. He's asking for updates, not to get you back. And just because he's the father of the child, doesn't mean you should be together if it's toxic. I applaud your creativity. Perhaps have your sister start asking about his plans for child support. He seems like the type to make your life hell. Plus, if he doesn't even have the guts to talk to OP, instead ghosting her while sending staff to stalk her and calling her sister, he deserves to pay out the nose for being such a reprehensible, entitled coward, not the a-hole. And BLM Mauler says, not the a-hole. He isn't the only one allowed to be petty. He doesn't want to be an adult and come to you, then keep making them coins. Posted by user AmiTheA 117096505. Titled, Am I the a-hole for kicking out my cousin and his wife after they berated me for working instead of watching their kids? I, female 36, took in my cousin, male 37, and his wife and 2 children, 6 and 3. A month ago, my cousin lived in a rented apartment for 4 months, but couldn't continue paying because of his financial issues. He said he wanted to go live with his parents, but they live far away, and he can't move away from work. I decided to let them move in until he could figure something out with his work. Also, my aunt asked me, so I found it rude to say no. I'm a pediatrician. My schedule is busy. I work in ICU, and it's draining both physically and emotionally. Sometimes I can't even find time for lunch. I work long day shifts and evening shifts, and night shift depend on my schedule. My cousin's kids are very active. I have many items that they broke, including a lamp I received as a gift. They even broke my late husband's vase. I told them that this can't happen again, and my cousin didn't replace the stuff, complaining about his situation. My place got filthy and uncomfortable. I started spending more time covering shifts to get away from all that mess. The thing is, whenever my cousin and his wife go out, they would ask me to stay home and watch the kids. I only did it twice, and I told them I have other commitments and responsibilities. I already said I'm not available to babysit. My cousin threw a fit. I suggested getting a babysitter, but he said he won't ever let me pay. 2 days ago, he and his wife went out and told me to watch the kids for 2 hours. I had a shift I needed to go to on time. I got ready to go to work. I kept calling them, but the line was busy. I had no choice but to leave the kids with my neighbor, Mum 40s, and sent the cousin a text to let him know. At 11 p.m, I turned my phone on and found missed calls and one text from his wife berating me for leaving her kids with a stranger and called me irresponsible and neglectful. I was stunned. My cousin was mad, saying that they couldn't count on me with the kids for 2 hours, insulted my job, and said I must be leaving kids to die in the ICU, ignoring that he didn't bother to answer my call. I lost it. I got home and argued with them, told them they were out of line and that they needed to leave. He tried to get me to talk to my aunt on the phone and to get me to change my mind, but I had it, especially since they said that I might be doing the same neglecting with my patients. I argued with my aunt and hung up on her. They left, but my cousin didn't stop guilting me to try to convince me to take them back. I'm finding it hard to find places that you've done anything wrong here. You looked after the kids for 2 hours, then you had to go to work. They ignored your phone call and went on their merry way? Then they're mad that someone that's actually responsible and able to look after the kids is looking after them. And then on top of that, they insult your job and just tear you down. I feel like at that point, no matter what you do or say, within reason, is justified and it wouldn't make you an a-hole. It's just a reaction to what they're giving you. Your cousin is an idiot and an asshole for trying to guilt you to convince you to take them back. They're living in fantasy land and they need to pull their head out of their ass. And for this, I'm gonna go with not the a-hole. Boring Business Class says, not the a-hole. These are some r/choosing beggars type people. You are doing them a favor. They can't even appreciate that. You told them that you can't watch the kids, which isn't your job anyway, and they still have the audacity to be mad at you. Kick them out, because no matter if you fix this, nothing will be enough for them. They will still find something bigger to get mad at you for down the line, even after letting them stay in your own place. Edit, I completely skimmed over the fact that you don't like being home because it's messy. If only there were people living there rent-free that could do chores as some sort of thank you, instead of just breaking more furniture and not paying for it. Not to mention, if OP lives in certain areas, pretty soon they might become protected by tenant protection laws. This. Instead of wondering if she's the a-hole, OP needs to make it a priority to kick them out to protect herself. Maledict33 says, not the a-hole. One of the first things that kind of shocked me when I moved away from home for college was that not everyone was raised with the exact same standards of courtesy. I had roommates that thought it was okay to be loud at all hours, roommates who never cleaned, so on and so forth. But how is it that there are people in this world who don't know not to bite the hand that feeds them? And Typical Management 680 says, not the a-hole. You let this go on for too long. It's not rude to say no to an aunt with regard to your home. You have to readjust your thinking. Don't let them back in. They are disrespectful, entitled, and ungrateful. Agreed. OP should have told them to leave the first time she felt uncomfortable in her own house because they made it filthy. Or even earlier when she saw it was heading that way. Clearly they have no respect for her or her things. And Ian Caradoc says, not the a-hole, not even remotely. Do not confuse duty with what other people expect of you. They are utterly different. Duty is a debt you owe to yourself to fulfill obligations you have assumed voluntarily. Paying that debt can entail anything from years of patient work to instant willingness to die. Difficult it may be, but the reward is self-respect. But there is no reward at all for doing what other people expect of you, and to do so is not merely difficult, but impossible. It is easier to deal with a footpad than it is with the leech who wants just a few minutes of your time. Please, this won't take long. Time is your total capital, and the minutes of your life are painfully few. If you allow yourself to fall into the vice of agreeing to such requests, they quickly snowball to the point where these parasites will use up 100% of your time and squawk for more. So learn to say no, and to be rude about it when necessary. Otherwise, you will not have time to carry out your duty or to do your own work, and certainly no time for love and happiness. The termites will nibble away your life and leave none of it for you. This rule does not mean that you must not do a favor for a friend or even a stranger, but let the choice be yours. Don't do it because it is expected of you. By Robert A. Heinlein, Time Enough for Love. Posted by user 1K2A3R8M5A, titled, Am I the a-hole for responding with sarcasm to my friend saying she doesn't want kids? All events are within the pandemic guidelines set in my area. To make things short, in my friend group, 4 of us, we're talking about the future and if we wanted kids or not. I said I'm really excited to be a mother and to have a husband and a family, etc. And I always have been. My friend who does not want kids or a family responded with, you're so normal, and started talking about how she hates societal norms or whatever, and then how she does not want to raise kids, and this isn't the first time she's taken digs at my choice. I kinda bitch-stared her for a moment, then responded with fake enthusiasm, oh my god, you're so quirky! And look at you doing society so many favors, everyone should clap! Or something like that, which was clearly sarcastic. She instantly looked taken aback and left after 5 minutes or so. My friend said we all know what she's like and we should just take it with a grain of salt, but honestly, I didn't like how she takes digs at me. If she can't handle some sarcasm, I think she should grow up in my opinion. She isn't very happy and says I'm the a-hole. And OP reckons they're the a-hole because my friend took a dig at me for wanting kids in the future, I responded with sarcasm and she got upset. I could be the a-hole cause maybe I should have ignored it. Based on this story alone, maybe she has taken digs at you in the past, but all she said to you was, you're so normal. I can get that this could be the straw that broke the camel's back for you, but your reaction to, you're so normal, is like way disproportionate to what she said. That places you, in my eyes, to you're the a-hole territory, but if you were to give us more information later to tell us what she's been saying in the past, I might say it's an everyone sucks here, but I can also respect people that think it's an everyone sucks here moment. I don't know, both of you guys suck in this situation, I'm inclined to go towards everyone sucks here, but all she said was, you're so normal, and you went on this rampage thing. So weird. Webby Vanderquack says, everyone sucks here. You flipped out because she said you were normal? Quote, if she can't handle some sarcasm, I think she should grow up in my opinion. End quote. Freudian slip? You both need to grow up. Yeah, it's basically calling OP basic, not the a-hole. So, who cares? If you're bothered about being called basic, you need to grow up, Lamau. No, it's rude. I'm a well-adjusted adult and I'd be insulted if that was said about a choice that I made. My friends will sometimes joke, but we never put each other down. What exactly is wrong with being basic? It's used as an insult towards people, so if it didn't have that connotation, it would be a fine thing to say. But at this point in time, it's used to put people down. You're allowed to be insulted when someone insults you. Rose Tyler 38 says, you're the a-hole for not accepting your judgment in other parts of the thread, which is a violation of one of the subreddit rules. Cat in an Oak Tree says, everyone sucks here. Both of you can stop being petty. And Nope Duck says, you're the a-hole, and I think your friend is right. Your attitude is awful, and I think you should seriously do some self-reflection before you subject children to this. G'day there guys, and that's the end of today's episode. I do hope you enjoyed it and were entertained by today's bloody good content. As always, I want to do a quick shout out and a thank you to all my channel members and Patreon subscribers. Your beautiful faces and names will be up on screen right now. Haven't forgot about you guys. Sorry, I was taking a little break there. So yeah, if you see yourself, give yourself a pat on the back. If you want to be on this screen, there's links down to the description below where you can sign up and help support the channel and all future projects that I'm going to be doing on this one. With all that said, I hope you guys have an amazing day, night, sleep, whatever you're up to. I'll see you in the next episode, and I do hope you enjoy it. Thank you.